just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. And I tell you what, fuck, I'm excited because it is Origin. The teams have announced. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Boys, how we feeling?
Best time of the year, Kempy.
Holy
Unreal.
shit, it is.
How good.
Oh, my God. Timmy, how we feeling?
Honestly, mate, I'm a bit concerned. I've got bloody Super Saiyan Goku sitting on the other desk about to go ham on us. Mate, so excited.
Oh.
The best thing about it is the teams have just come out, so we've got like a fresh live reaction to it, essentially.
Oh, my God. We had literally walked in. We've just got the teams. Maddie, how are you feeling?
Good. I remember last year we had the same show and we spent an hour and a half talking about it before we went on, but this year we're getting straight into it.
Getting straight into it. We know what the punter wants. They want rugby league chat. Now, we're going to go quickly first through accountability, brought to you by Sportsbet, obviously. Name the team of the week. Boom, straight into Origin. We're not going to spend long time on any of the other stuff. We're going to get straight into it. Also, just before we get into everything, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Maloney brothers. Jason Maloney won the WO Bantamweight World Champion, defeating Australasia via majority decision. But I also want to give out a shout out to his brother that also fought for a world title just yesterday and was KO'd pretty badly, Andrew Maloney. And I just wanted to give a shout out to him because he would be devastated right now because it was one of the biggest knockouts of the year, if not ever. It was unbelievable. I just sent him the well wishes and also what a true warrior both the brothers are, but especially Andrew. It takes a brave warrior to step in the ring and to risk it all like you did. Did our country super proud, both the brothers. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to those boys. Also, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Hunter Lawrence and Jet Lawrence, two absolute gun Australians killing it in the Supercross Championship. Currently over at Salt Lake City, they're leading both of their respective leagues. So massive shout out to Hunter Lawrence and Jet Lawrence. Now let's get into the footy. The accountability brought to you by Sportsbet, as always. Number one betting app with the number one sports podcast in this country. The best in the business, guys. People know Sportsbet's number one, baby. They're number one, best app to use. So if you're going to have a punt, do a punt. Sound like a... If you're going to do a punt, if you're going to have a punt, make sure to do it with Sportsbet because they're the best in the business and they're supporting us. So they're a partner of Bloke. We really appreciate it. Gamble responsibly. You win some, but you lose more, though. So don't bet what you can't afford. Only just a little fun here and there, but do it with Sportsbet if you're going to do it. Now let's get straight into accountability. Panthers defeat the Broncos. Or everyone went Panthers. I went Broncos.
You do a punt good.
Dragons defeat the Roosters. Everyone went Roosters. Wow. Roosters, bit of Barney rubble. Eels defeat the South. We all went South. We are having a shocker, especially me. I'm 0-3 right now. Holy. Sharks defeat the Knights. I swear, Maddie, didn't you go Knights at the start of the week? Someone went Knights.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure. I checked this morning. I'm pretty sure.
Someone went Knights. Anyway, we all went Sharks. They got the job done. Tigers defeat the Cowboys. I went Cowboys. Guru went Cowboys. Timmy went Tigers. Maddie went Tigers. Storm defeat Dolphins. Did I go Dolphins?
Yeah, you did change. I'm going off what we picked on Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I changed to Doggies, but I got mine as Titans. You changed to Storm. But
really?
Yeah, you had Dolphins at the start of the week.
Damn, okay. Dolphins, I went Dolphins, Guru went Storm, Timmy went Storm, Maddie went Dolphins. Bulldogs defeat the Titans. I went Bulldogs, everyone else went Titans. Oh, talk about a tipper.
Talk about Jew.
I would have been bloody 0-8 if I didn't get that one. Manly defeat the Raiders. We all went Raiders. Timmy wins this week. Oh, another week to Timmy.
Boys, I'm happy to... For the integrity of the show, and we want to make this interesting for the listeners out there. I'm happy to take a step back in future and just rule myself out of the comp, just to make things more competitive, especially for old Guru there. He's hurting.
Might just chime in here, Kempy. Obviously, the Canberra Raiders, their downfall officially started on the weekend. It's been a fun few weeks, so I picked up a little something for Tim over the weekend.
Yeah.
I think
What's this?
A little rebrand for the Canberra Raiders. This is courtesy of Jersey Tragic. That's for you, mate.
The Cockatoos.
Chuck it on.
2023 premiers, the Canberra Cockatoos.
The downfall has begun.
That's
good.
Mate, he was coming in cocky every week. That curses your club when you come in too cocky, mate.
You know what brought us undone on the weekend? I saw it. I don't even know if it was legit or not, but there was a post on Sunday morning that if we won by 170 points on Sunday, we'd be top of the NRL. And I reckon Ricky Stewart and the boys saw that pre-game, got a bit excited, a bit overconfident, and but can we just not detract from the fact that I've won another week of accountability?
Yeah, everyone knows if you tipped well this week, you don't understand rugby league. Everyone knows that. That is a fact across the board in the NRL community right now. Everyone that knows rugby league essentially went 0-8.
You were right, but you were wrong.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You're the office person that doesn't know rugby league right now. That's who you are. Just saying.
Boys, another week, another dub. I can only do what I do.
Now, team of the week. Turbo at the back. Junior Tupa on the wing. Stafford Toa in the centres. Connor Tracy, centres. Ruben Garrick, 5. Dylan Brown, 6. Brooks, 7. Tavita Pangai Jr., 8. Coruscant, 9. Paolo, 10. Sua, that's Jaden Sua, 11. Katoa, 12. Carrigan, 13. Burden, 14. Nikora at 15. And Stefano Utukamanu. So hard to say. Apologies, brother. The big fella, he's at 16. So do we not have a 17? Fafita was at number 17. And you guys guessed it. In the comments section, you already knew who the hungriest player was going to be. But I have to announce it. I am stoked to announce the hungriest player is Stafford Toa. Holy moly, what a game that was. If you could, you know how we sit here and sometimes we go, if he realised his potential, it is through the roof. And you barely ever see a player literally play the best he could possibly ever play. Only some of the superstars in our game, like, Latrell, GI, Lockie, Thurstons, all those kind of guys, Joey. Whereas, if you want to watch a game where Toa plays literally the best he possibly ever could play, that's that game on the weekend. That's how good Toa was.
He was unbelievable, and shout out to the kid that was marking him. I hope he's okay.
Here we go. It's already started. Stafford Toa was phenomenal. One of the best games a centre has played in an NRL season I personally have ever seen.
It was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just with every single touch. And all jokes aside, Val Holmes obviously one of the best outside backs in our game. I've never seen Val get stood up like that.
Never, ever. This is his stats. 2 tries, 5 line breaks, a try assist, 12 tackle breaks, and ran for 230 metres. So use code STARFORD, so that is STARFORD, 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 to get free delivery when you spend $15 or more. And as you know, before we get into the Origin chat, Origin exclusive, live and free on 9 now. Only place to watch it. Get around it. Also, you've got the Thursday night footy, but let's focus on Origin. Guys, 9 now. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it in your browser. If you don't have normal TV, like me, for example, you can watch it on your browser, on your computer, or you can watch it with your app. That is 9 now, Origin exclusive. The best game in the business, the best sporting event in the country, bar none in my opinion. Origin, live and exclusive on 9 now. Let's get into the games now. New South Wales Blues name their Origin squad. Josh Adokar, Nathan Cleary, Tyson Frizzell, Payne Haas, Nico Hines, Coruscant, Jerome Luai, Liam Martin, Latrell Mitchell, Cam Murray, Tavita Pangai Jr., Junior Paolo, James Tedesco, Brian To'o, Tom Travojevic, Isaiah Yeo, Hudson Young, and Campbell Graham at 18th man. Initial reaction, boys?
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on it. I think we could have done much worse, without a doubt. I have got mixed feelings on it, though. I think one of the more interesting talking points, Appy at 9, playing the full 80 minutes there. I thought that if they were going to go for an 80-minute 9, which seemingly they have, I thought Cook would have probably been the guy. Do you think Appy was in the team 4 days ago?
I mean, I'm shocked that Cookie didn't get selected. I really am. I think Appy has been a victim of the Tigers' really poor start, and he's probably had... And he struggled because the Tigers were struggling, and it's taken probably this last 3 weeks or 4 weeks for them to kind of catch up to him. So he's probably had 3 or 4 good games this year. So I am, even though we know how good Coruscant is, we're talking about the back-to-back premiership winning 9. For the second year, he came off the bench with Mitch Kenny. Yes, he is playing 80. I'm pretty sure at the Tigers now, so we know he can do it. But
Well, he played 80 on the weekend. The 3 weeks before that, he played 60 to 68.
Well, okay, there you go. Even if he had played 80 every week, I still am really, really surprised Cookie didn't get the call up. I feel like he's had a really good season from round one. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, that was a big one that stood out. The number 9, I would have gone Cookie as well. That being said, like, Appy's got the combinations with the blokes around him. You know, he was brilliant on the weekend against the Cowboys. I'm certainly not against that selection. Would have preferred Cook. For that reason that you've already touched on, I prefer him going the 80. You know, the last couple of years they've had the dual hooker scenario, the setup. This year, the only hooker's there, so I suppose he goes 80. What the coverage for him would be, I suppose Cameron Murray would slot into 9 if he was to go down, or if he needed a 15-minute breather. I don't think that'll happen. I think the plan will be for him to go 80. So, mate, I'm pretty happy with the squad. There's a couple of little things that stand out. Obviously, Fox gets the nod ahead of Campbell Graham on the wing, which, you know, I'm one of Fox's biggest fans, but Campbell Graham can't have done much more the last 12 to 24 months to get a start. So I thought he was a bit hard done by TPJ. Very surprised to see his name there. Firstly, congratulations to him, but yeah, probably wouldn't have been my first pick on the bench, but yeah.
Well, we'll stick on Appy Coruscant initially. I think attacking-wise, and you're right, he's played with Jerome, he's played with Cleary. In the record year they won, though, who was their hooker? Was Damien Cook? 2021. Yeah, it was Cookie. So
Cook started in every Origin game except the last one.
Except the last one, okay. And so that's what surprises me, is that this sudden shift to Appy, when Appy Coruscant's defence has always been solid. It hasn't been great, it's been solid, and it's been his attacking game that has been just so good. The only thing that from a New South Wales perspective, is the physicality of the game in Origin. How does Appy go in defence compared to Cookie? But what you may or may not lose, like he could go out and have a great defensive game, you pick up in attack, because around the ruck he is maybe outside of Harry Grant. But you know what? He might even be more crafty than Harry Grant.
I think he is, and I've said this last year, I think he is the craftiest hooker in the NRL.
So you may pick, like, being that crafty around a high-speed game in the ruck, maybe that's what Freddie is looking at?
Yeah, and I think that... I just think he's going to have to get through so much work. Like, you even have a look at the Penrith Panthers, you know, how they were picking their sides last year. They'll keep him on the bench for a reason, because they don't want him to have to make 30 tackles in the first 25 minutes. And I just think it's it does right Queensland's game plan to some extent for them at the start. Like, I'd love to keep a count on how many times he's going to have to tackle Pat Carrigan in the first 25, 30 minutes. They're going to find him a lot. And so they should, 100%. Whereas I feel like if you had Damien Cook, he's, you know, you're obviously going to send traffic at him, but I think it writes their game plan for the first half an hour or so.
Yeah, and I think athletically, you give Cookie probably the edge to get through the cardiovascular of that period that's really tough.
And that's the thing, because Appy's now going to have to go 80, something has to change in his game. And it's like, well, what's taking the most effort out of you? Or what's something that you can't make less tackles. If they run at you, you have to make the tackle. It's the running game's probably at times going to have to take a bit of a back seat in terms of going the full 80 minutes. Well, that's the biggest asset of his game, isn't it? Appy's running game. So if that's now coming back, you know, 5-10%, because he's looking at the longevity and getting through the minutes, yeah, I just thought Cookie was... And you mentioned Kempy before, like Cookie with his combinations. He's got not as good a combination with obviously Luai and Cleary because of the club connection, but he's played plenty of footy with them and has been highly successful. Yeah.
It's like almost feels silly to say, because it's Coruscant. He could go out and be player of the match, and it could be. So it's not like we're not talking about a shock selection here. We're just talking about the tiny percentage differences that may.
It's not a bad selection.
Not at all. Not at all.
So my mistake. Appy started the last 2 games last year at 9, but he played 52 minutes in one of them, 34 minutes in the other, and then he came off the bench a couple of years ago where he played whatever minutes. And Cookie in most of his games played 80, just for reference.
Now, call me crazy. You can call me crazy. I'm happy with that. When you said who would replace him, I actually think Nathan Cleary replaces him if he goes down and Hines goes to 7.
I think it'll be Jerome Luai if something happens.
Yeah, okay. I reckon Cleary. I reckon
Luai would go before Cleary.
If we're moving our halfback to hooker, that is one of the great bed shits of all time, in my opinion.
No, I'm not saying they're going to do it in part of the game plan. What I'm saying is if he get knocked out, I honestly reckon they put Cleary there because of his defence, and they put Hines and say, Hines, it's your team now, run it.
Big ask. I'll just point out with Jerome Luai, with Happy Curacao, and I don't have a huge problem with the pick, but as we've said defensively, you have a look at his 80-minute games this year that he has played. In none of those games has he missed less than 5 tackles.
Yeah, defensively, he's always been the toughest sell for Appy. He's a smaller hooker, but craftiness around the ruck, he is the best.
The other thing that worries me too is that, over the last 5 weeks, Appy hasn't made more than 40 tackles once. I'd be shocked if he doesn't push into the high 40s, 50 tackle count.
I mean, Billy Slater and the team, it'll be a red dot on him.
And they will identify that he hasn't made more than 40 tackles in a game, and they will go at him. So they should.
What's Cookie's tackle average been like this year?
I reckon it'll be 45 to 52 around that mark.
Yeah.
You do wonder and look at that, and we touched on it briefly off air, but Nico as the 14, and it ties in obviously so relevant to the conversation we're having now that you're forced to move, be it a spine player, if it's Cam Murray to 9, which it's pretty ordinary cover for your number 9. And 10 years ago when it was, I shouldn't say more rough and tumble, but there wasn't this crackdown on head knocks and players' welfare and all that sort of stuff. Players will be more likely to get through games, but because it's just a flick of the head, you're off for at least 15 minutes, any symptoms, and you're gone for the game. I love Nico there, definitely deserves his spot, but you do question, is he the right man for 14? He's very versatile, but he's versatile 167, really.
And on top of that, I would ask the question to Freddie, if you didn't think Cook or Appy were up to playing 80 minutes last year, now that they're a year older, what's changed?
So Cook is averaging 45 tackles this year at 95% efficiency. Appy is 35 tackles this year, although he's play off the bench sometimes at the start, and 87% efficiency.
So there's a substantial defensive difference. What about attacking numbers averaged, as in obviously he's played less minutes and less games, but maybe average it out a little bit?
I'll just read it out. So this is Appy. He's played 11 games, 2 tries, 2 forced dropouts, 4 try assists, 4 line break assists, 10 offloads, 58 average running meters. Whereas Cookie, give me one moment.
And stats aren't the be all and end all, guys. So we're not saying that at all.
I think especially when it comes to these two, stats obviously don't tell the full story.
Because Appy is so crafty, a lot of the tries may not be specifically just off him kind of thing.
Appy's also at a new club and everything, so there's a lot to take.
Yeah, a lot to take in.
There.
So Cookie, 12 games, so one more game, 1 try, no forced dropouts, 4 try assists, exact same, 3 line break assists, 6 offloads, 68 running meters average. So pretty similar in attack on stats.
So Appy with less games probably has a little bit better attack.
Yeah, just slightly ahead, yeah.
It's just slightly better. And then Cookie probably has just slightly better defence. Well, not just slightly, it's probably a bit of more substantial better. To be fair, though, in Appy's defence, he's been at the Tigers and he's got those stats. And I know they've been going mad now, but they started the year poor.
And to be fair as well, I don't think South Sydney's game has been built around Damien Cook's attack. It's been built around the halves that have the hot hand at the moment too.
So yeah, stats aren't everything, but the idea that Appy is probably a little bit craftier in attack and Cookie's a better defensive hooker, I think that's pretty...
Then you also tie in that because Appy does play 60 a lot, well, he's got a bit more in reserve to go hard and run the ball more, and whereas Cookie's 80 minutes every single week.
Yeah.
So he can't afford to be gassed with 15, 20 to go and be slipping off tackles and doing all that. So
yeah, that's
and then looking at still at the 14, and I'm so stoked to see Nicho Hynes there, but just again in the makeup of the team, any of the back 5, let's say back 4 go down, the centers and wingers, because we obviously know Nicho can play fullback. You're still leaving yourself very light on if any of those blokes go down, because I guess Nicho goes into centre or wing if required. You could shift Cam Murray out there, but they wouldn't want to do that. I would argue Matt Burton would have been a more appropriate 14. I was going to say, do you think Matt Burton? Yeah, just because we know he can cover 6, 7. He can play centre. He can play wing.
Probably fullback.
You can play fullback if you need, but you've got 3 fullbacks in that team already that he slots in at centre. So I would have picked Nicho at number 6. And once again, I'm not against Luai at 6. I think that's fine. He's been good lately, the last couple of weeks, stepping up, leading into Origin. But I would have had Nico at 6 and then Birdo at 14. There's just a few little holes there if players do go down.
And there's the age-old argument in Origin. You pick the best 17 guys, then you find a position for them. I feel like the way the modern game is played and with HIAs and everything, we've moved away from that a little bit.
I think also Queensland for the last 20 years haven't done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look, they've been fortunate because we've got the key spots, but back rowers and that we've always been a lot of the time combinations rather than playing ability, or form or whatever. I think. Look, I understand it's an anomaly, so it's like very easy to do that when you're surrounded by goats. But I agree with you in regards to picking your best 17, just form. I don't know if that's...
And I feel like, years ago, like it made sense to do that when you look back at the great New South Wales teams, whether it was, picking Joey at 9 or picking Brett Kenny at centre, all these sort of moves. I feel like the game's moved away from that a little bit, despite us picking 2 fullbacks in the centres, to be fair. But I question...
I think that's the anomaly similar to Queensland. Yeah. Like Latrell and Tommy, they're anomalies. They're not normal players that we're talking about here.
And that's the other thing that we've been talking about the Roosters for a long time about how, so many chefs in the kitchen and whatnot. When all these guys are on the park, you're going to have Turbo roaming. You're going to have Nico, I would assume, playing like a roaming sort of 13 role. You're going to have Teddy floating around. It just feels like there's going to be a lot going on.
And then you've got Kraft out of dummy half from Happy.
Which ties back into that hooker selection of... Cookie obviously has a wonderful running game. He's made a career out of it. But Appy probably runs a little bit more. Like, we don't necessarily need another entirely creative player out of number 9 because Cookie's service this year from 9 has also been so crisp.
Yeah. That's what's also surprising for me is, let's just take the names out of it and you go, Cookie's always played well at Origin. The Rabbitohs, before last week, the form, arguably premiership favourites, and he's been the number 9 for him. That's it's very surprising. But I think from Freddie's perspective, he's looking at it like back-to-back premierships, Appy. If I want a gelled spine together, Appy, Luai, Cleary, Yo, these guys know each other.
And surely that played a huge role in it. I would say with the 5'8" and the 9 jersey, Freddie saying to his half and his 13, who are going to run this team? Who do you want there?
Isn't it interesting how different this side could look? Say Nathan Cleary had a 6-8 week injury. There might not be a Luai. There might not be Appy Coruscant. How one man just... because of that combination of the spine changes so much this team selection.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Well, if that was to happen, you could all of a sudden see Freddie lean heavily into South Sydney combos there.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, Ilias is a few years away, but you might even go Hines, Walker, Cookie.
You could go Damien Cook at 9. You could play Cody Walker on the left with Latrell Mitchell on that side.
Yeah, it's crazy how this one position just changes everything. It's, as I said, it feels bizarre because it feels like from my perspective, it feels like we're talking negatively about Appy, but we're not at all. Like, Appy is a gun. He genuinely could, as I said, go out and play the game of his life and tear Queensland apart through the middle.
And that's where, if our forward pack gets over the top of yours, which, I think it'll be a very even clash, but if we do win the middle, Appy could be the best player on the field.
He could tear
and it's the
us
pick of
apart.
Origin.
Like Origin, high speed, less time to make decisions, fatigue around the ruck. There's not much more that you'd want in Appy Coruscant there. Maybe Harry Grant is equal due to his power explosiveness through the middle, but
and obviously we might at times speaking at this side and the Maroon side when we get to that sound a little bit glass half empty and a little bit negative at times. It's not knocking anything too major. It's just if we agreed with everything and it was all sunshine and roses, it'd be pretty boring listening, wouldn't it?
Well, we're
nitpicking at little things that maybe could have been differently, but nothing's a mile off. It's just
It's if we agree with everything, it'd be like great team.
Yeah.
End of show. End of show. Now, so the Appy Coruscant one, that's going to be really interesting to see play out. It is crazy how much that is going to dictate the way the game is played because it's clearly going to be a target for Queensland through the middle. And I wonder how Freddie's going to try to combat that, because he's obviously going to want to be able to put the people around him or defensive systems to make sure that he's sweet. Okay, so let's talk about the next big selection. Big Campbell Graham missing out at 18th man. Josh Adokar, To'o on the wings. I feel terrible for Campbell Graham. I feel terrible for Campbell Graham. Like, you couldn't have played any better. I just think this is a mixture of two things. The amount of, I guess, flack Freddie copped for Josh not being in the side last year, and also there is just an intangible thing that Josh brings, Josh Adokar. I don't know why I'm calling him Josh. Like, what the hell is that? The Fox does that can't be measured. And so I understand some people that feel that Campbell Graham should be there, but until I see otherwise in Origin, the Fox, I feel like, should never have lost his jersey in the first place. And I think I'm not sure if we were all agreement on last year, but I would have had him in my side last year.
We all had him there.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Adokar?
I think Campbell Graham has played well enough to be there, without a doubt. And, I've been very outspoken about that the last few weeks, but I personally thought there wasn't a hope in hell that both Fox and Turbo would be available. Now that they are, I think that does change things. And, as I said, Campbell Graham has played well enough to be there, but if Campbell Graham was ever going to miss out, this is the reason why he was going to miss out, and I can understand why Freddie's done it 100%.
Yeah, and you're right. I don't think anyone expected maybe one of those two to be sweet, but both Tommy and Josh Adokar.
And I think it's pretty evident, being 18th man, if one of them wasn't available, Campbell would be straight in, as he should be. But these are guys that have gone out and done the job before, and I think it's probably one thing that I slept on at the start of last series was, as you said, just that little thing that Josh Adokar brings that he'll probably bring more so from Monday to Tuesday in the lead up to the game. That you talk to guys that went on that World Cup with the Kangaroos, and Josh Adokar was just the best thing in the world to have there. So, especially when you got two games that are not going to be in Sydney like that, they've got to win a game outside of Sydney to have any chance in this series. A personality like Josh Adokar in there, I'm okay with it.
And he's always played well at Origin.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's always played well. What do you reckon, Jimmy?
Yeah, it's a great point you make, Guru. Like a week ago, when we'd seen Tommy Turbo with he looked so restricted in his running and didn't look anything close to 100%. Fox wasn't available. So in the space of a week, we've seen Fox come back, play, look pretty decent, and Tommy Turbo just go, guys, I'm sweet.
I'm good.
With an unbelievable performance against the Raiders. So, look, I think Campbell Graham had done enough to get selected. I would have picked him. That being said, I love Fox as well. I'm in no way am I unhappy about the selection. I just think Campbell Graham's been outstanding. I probably would have gone with Campbell Graham at centre, because as good as Tommy Turbo is at centre, the series he did dominate from memory, or the one before, and he spent time at centre, was even Kurt Capel who got around him a couple of times, because playing a position he's never really played. He was awesome from there, but I do think it's probably the hardest defensive position on the field. So to put him on the wing, you get his yardage coming out of his half. He still does the roaming role.
Yeah. But
either way, Campbell Graham could play centre or winger. I just think he's been incredible. We spoke about it in so much depth the last couple of weeks, but Campbell Graham he looks so made for Origin. His defence is incredible. It's aggressive. So I would have gone that way, but look, Fox, he's a gun. He's done it before, so...
I think that's the other good point that Tim makes. Like, if there was to be an injury or something to your outside backs, just having Campbell Graham out there, you've got...
All right, pause. They've released the lineups 1 to 17, 18th, 19. Campbell Graham's not 18th man. They've changed in the last hour. So Campbell Graham's not even in the squad anymore, which is...
What?
Which is... Yeah. So the Blues have just tweeted this out. So it's Teddy, To'o, Latrell, Turbo, Fox, Luai, Cleary, as we all thought. Starting TPJ and Payne Haas. Abby Coruscant at 9. On the edges, Frizzell starting, Hutto Young starting. Yo 13. 14, Junior Bolo. 15, Cam Murray. 16, Liam Martin. 17, Nico Hines. 18th man, Stephen Crichton. 19th man, Stefano.
NRL physio. Campbell Graham has been withdrawn from the New South Wales squad due to a sternum injury.
Okay.
But then why was he named? The sternum injury...
I don't know.
The sternum injury didn't come in the last hour.
The Bunnies played, Friday night, was it, or Thursday night?
Friday.
Friday
They
night.
played Friday.
That news can't have just come up.
There's something strange has happened there. Or, wouldn't you communicate? Wouldn't you ask,
Communication not our strong point in rugby league.
That is bizarre. That is truly strange. Truly strange.
So who was it? It was Critter and...
Stefano. So Tavita Pangai Jr. will start with Payne Haas.
And does that mean Cam? That means Cam will probably play in the middle because he's not starting either. Cam Murray.
The fact that Cam Murray and Liam Martin aren't on the edges is shocking to me. I'm so
You
surprised
just
at that.
wonder what he'll run out with.
Yeah, I don't think he'll run out with like that. I'll be shocked if he does.
I don't see how in the space of this morning, Cam Murray's named on an edge, then all of a sudden now he's going back to playing as a middle. Like, how does something that substantial change?
How does the Campbell Graham thing happen?
Okay, there was no squad. There was no numbers this morning. This morning was alphabetical order.
Yeah, it was all alphabetical this morning.
Right.
The Campbell Graham situation is very strange. Very strange.
And we've got Hudson starting in that side. I
Hudson and Tyson. Brazil.
Hutto got told he was starting, so I think that's legit.
So didn't even wait to see him gel with the team.
I
And
believe so.
I mean, this is, well, maybe it's precedent. I don't know, but it seems unprecedented. Like in an hour for this to happen, for essentially the makeup of the team and squad, and Critter come in at 18. There's no way. Well, there is a way, but in the last hour for them just to find out that Campbell Graham is sternum injury, and also, Campbell Graham would play with a sternum injury. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you think
weird.
I don't know. This is strange. I wonder if he played. Well, he definitely can't then, because
You can't play this week.
there's no way he can play this week. Wow, that is truly shocking. Okay, so we'll get the new.
So I've sent you all both screenshots, but one of them is the 1 to 17 or 1 to 19.
Okay, so we've got so we'll read that out again for people. Tedesco at fullback, Toa on the wing, Trelli Mitt centre, Tom Trbojevic, Adokar, Luai, Cleary. Tavita Pangai Jr. will start in Game 1 of 2023 Origin. Game 1 of 2023 Origin. Tavita Pangai Jr. will debut in the cauldron that is Adelaide. Api Coruscant, 9. Payne Haas, 10. Frizzell gets the call back after a couple of years out. He will start. Hudson Young will debut and start. Isaiah Yeo at 13. Junior Paolo off the bench at 14. Cam Murray at 15. Liam Martin at 16. Hines, 17. Critter. Stephen Crichton, 18. Stefano at 19. Thoughts, boys?
Well, I guess we were going to talk about it later, but this TPJ selection, I can't make sense of it. And mate, I'll be cheering TPJ on next Wednesday, and I hope he comes out and kills it. And I'll be the first to apologise, but I would not have considered him.
I personally didn't have him in the mix.
Nope.
Before this.
If I'd pick a squad of 30, I honestly wouldn't have had, and that's with all due respect to TPJ. And once again, hope he proves me wrong, and I'll be the first to apologise if he does. But I wouldn't have had him in my squad of 30.
If he had played like he has last yesterday for the season, I would have.
But that's the problem with TPJ.
Because he's only been back for 4 games now? Could you get how many minutes he's played and how many games he's been back for, Tavita? 4 or 5 games, you'd say?
4 or 5 games. So he's been back played the last 5 games.
5 games. I will say...
6 games. 6 games.
Tavita Pangai Jr., it could be the greatest selection of all time.
Yep.
Could be one of the biggest bombs of all time. Because him at his best, mind-focused, no brain snaps, is unstoppable. Tamalolo-like. When he's truly just running straight, getting on his front, offloads every now and then.
So first 5 games, he played anywhere between 40 and 49 minutes, and then yesterday he played 57 minutes.
Okay. I reckon he probably won't get more than 35, 40.
You wouldn't think so, but I mean, once again, with HOAs and everything in our game, and especially with Origin, like, it's just how brutal the sport is. It wouldn't shock me if he has to play more minutes. There's so many things could happen.
I'm surprised he's starting over
It's
Polo.
weird. Like, firstly...
I'm not buying this team, personally.
Yeah, no, either am I. Firstly, congrats to him, because that's unreal.
Yeah.
But when the news first came out that TPJ was going to get selected, I thought, I don't agree with this. I'll be honest, I didn't think he'd done enough to earn the selection in the Blues side ahead of certain other players. But I thought, all right, as you touched on, Kemper, we know what he's capable of, and I thought If he comes on second half and just plays a 20, 25-minute role, just impact off the bench, I get it. You don't have to worry about him gassing out. You don't have to worry about any deficiencies in defence. Just a big, 20, 25 minutes in second half, I get it. But if he starts, I don't see him as a starting Origin player. I don't know. I'm not buying that he starts.
Well, it's a bit strange too because you got Junior Paulo, who literally led Samoa to a World Cup final, Cam Murray in the Australian squad, Liam Martin in the Australian squad, all on the bench.
And like Junior Paulo, we know has an enormous motor for front rower. Stalwart of this Origin side, playing great football. We know he can play 60 to, probably not 80 minutes in an Origin arena, but he can. He's an animal. As Guru said, if there are HIAs and TPJs played the first 30 minutes, say, and all of a sudden he's forced to play 60, 70, I'll be really worried about his mode at the back end of that game. Whereas Bowlow,
on the weekend, Tavita, I think he gassed because Campbell Graham did a number on him.
Yeah.
Jaden Campbell stepped him and went through the middle, and I think he got taken off.
Straight away, he got taken off the next set.
Yeah.
And whereas Bowlow, all right, well, if he starts and injuries happen, HIAs happen, and he's forced to play more, I'd be comfortable with that. We know he can do it.
And I also think Paulo offers a lot of ball playing that takes time to build up into the game. He gets through his tough work, but I do like Paulo extra minutes because eventually he finds his rhythm and he starts ball playing a little bit.
So good, so smooth. And TPJ, you thought his selection was there as an impact player off the bench, and you go, if you bring him on in the second half and we're leading, mate, just go out there, run hard, tackle hard, that's it. If we're chasing points, mate, bring the offload out. Get us some second phase play going.
Man, I tell you what, with the new rules and crackdowns of hyper aggression, that first 10 minutes, you've got to be saying to Davida, mate, I just need you. Just stay calm. Just get through. You can't be calm. I don't need you to be calm, but I can't have you over that line that we know he loves to cross.
I'm sorry. If you're picking TBJ to say to him, stay calm, what's the point of fucking picking him?
Yeah.
That's what he brings. He brings a bit of X factor. He brings a bit of, you can't prepare for him. This is one of those picks that I think Queensland would be sitting there going, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Tell you what, it's equal parts nerve-wracking, exciting, but just because of the uncertainty around what he's going to bring, it's exciting.
Oh, yeah, from a pure, content perspective, he could be the best player on the field. If we see his stuff at Toa game, as in he comes out and plays to the ability we know he can, and he did shift the game yesterday for the Bulldogs. There is no denying that. He genuinely could bust the game open.
Yeah.
As I said, I wouldn't have made the selection. I'll be the first to apologise. Happy to wear all that. I will say this in TBJ's defence. Penrith Panthers a couple of years ago obviously lost in the Melbourne Storm 2020 grand final. 2021 they returned to the prelim final. Penrith had about $5.60, $6. I think it was Spencer Leniu that was ruled out that day. TPJ came in. The first 5 or 6 minutes, TPJ went up and grabbed Christian Welch for no apparent reason, shook him up, threw him on the ground and just said, fuck you.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, Penrith got on the upper foot because they showed them no respect whatsoever. I don't like the selection, but TPJ, he has done this before where I think it has worked in his favour without a doubt. I hope it has the same impact for New South Wales. I'm very sceptical. But if I was to defend this decision, go back and watch that game and watch the impact that TPJ had. He was only at Penrith for 5 or 6 weeks. I think there's a fair argument that they maybe don't win that comp if he wasn't on the field that day, though.
Well, I mean, this is the front row clash starting. Flegler and Collins versus Haas and Tavita Pangai Jr. The only calm bloke in that is Haas. The rest of them are psychos.
That's the other worry for me. I wonder if Freddie has looked at their team and seen their bench and gone, shit, I need to make changes here. If they're going to go with their lunatic, I'm going to put my lunatic out there.
Yeah, because Flegler and Collins are true lunatics.
Yeah.
True lunatics. And so maybe, Freddie has gone,
I think that's played a role for sure.
Gone, I need to fight fire with fire here. I can't afford.
If you want to get into a lunatic off, pick the right guy because fuck, he can play. He's got so much ability. Just needs to put it together, TPJ.
If he talk about a redemption story, if he comes out and plays to his potential, it'll be one of the biggest redemption stories I've ever seen in my entire life because a lot of people, including myself, I thought TPJ was done 3 years ago. I just thought couldn't. It was the guy that had all the potential to be the next Taumalolo, and he just couldn't seem to put it together. Now, by all reports, especially in this off-season, his life's completely changed, and he's turned it all around. Since coming back, I don't think he's been suspended. Has he even been put on report? And obviously played really well yesterday. He took it to Tino. Tino took it back to him. So maybe he is in the perfect spot to show everyone exactly what he was born to do, and that is run footy and play well.
Biggest moment of TPJ's career by far and away will be next Wednesday, and if he can deliver, turns it all around.
Turns everything.
All around in an instant.
It could be the best or worst decision in Origin history. And I don't know which one it's going to be. And I also almost feel like there's going to be no in between.
There is no in between
other.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
It is one extreme or the other.
It'd be so disappointing if he just like, okay. I would be shocked if we come in next week and it's just like,
he did a job.
yeah, you went all right. I mean, good on him if he does. But
I mean, I'd settle for it.
yeah, 100%. So, yeah, the Tavita Pango Jr. definitely was the most surprising for me. Like, I was shocked. Now, Jake Trbojevic pulling out with the injury.
What was the injury?
Calf. He just didn't feel like, he pulled through the game, sweet, but he just didn't think he was ready, I'm pretty sure. What are your thoughts on losing a guy like Jake Trbojevic? Do you feel like that heart of the pack is gone?
Well, that's the other thing that shocks me, and the reports were that Tavita's come in to replace Jake. Whether that's true or not, whether, potentially TPJ was already in the side. But, geez, if they've lost Jake and they've gone, we're going to replace him with TPJ, I don't know if you could find more opposite guys.
Completely opposite.
And, it could be that opposite that wins this game for us if TPJ plays his absolute best footy. But, yeah, I think losing Gerbo, I'll be the first to admit, when Freddie didn't pick him game one last year, I underestimated how much we would miss. I think Timmy had some stats the other day about how Manly's record without Gerbo is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Shocked me he comes back yesterday and
Pump him.
yeah, absolutely gives it to him. Tom grows another leg when he's on the field.
He's like the Josh Adokar for their forward pack.
Yeah.
And obviously Josh Adokar is very flary and you see all the great stuff, but it's just that it's almost like Croker to the Raiders to a lesser extent. Like is he as barnstorming as some of the young guys you have? No, not at the moment. But he's that intangible quality on the field that matters.
You can't measure it. And there's something about Gerbo, there's something that he brings, his intensity, whatever it might be, that it works, and that's what Origin's about, intensity.
Well, I'm still shocked at that Campbell Graham Sternum pull-out. That is just so surprising to me because now you've got, two Rabbitohs players, and only one of them is starting.
I wonder does Liam, if Liam Martin's, he looked fit, played good minutes on the weekend, probably starts.
I am genuinely shocked that you wouldn't have Liam Martin and Cam Murray on each edge, just at least for game one. I get the Cam Murray through the middle bit, I get it, but for feeder, I just want someone to do a job on him, and I know Cam Murray will do that.
I'm shocked they don't have one of them start. I think one of them will start.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Murray.
And Frizzell to the bench. I reckon Hutto starts.
Yeah, wow.
And I reckon Frizzell comes off.
So who does it? So that means the right edge will mark for feeder, yeah? I'd go with Martin, I think, personally.
Yeah. Martin or Murray, who can both play either edge. And you just feel more comfortable with him on for feeder with the form he's in.
I just think, especially if you are going to run with Appy at 9, which I seemingly are, I want Cam Murray to play middle. I want that quick play of the ball.
Yeah. I will say, so both Saifidi brothers gone in regards to not in the picture. Stefano, I probably would have had Stefano ahead of TPJ in regards to like pecking order of who I think that Freddie would select. Definitely I would have Daniel Saifidi in regards to who I thought he would
Was
select.
Daniel not in? Was he in the first team that was named today? I'm so confused by
No,
that.
he was in the rumoured to be last night.
The rumoured to be.
and Liam Martin wasn't.
Thrown around.
Yeah.
So
it's essentially what was rumoured to be last night, except for Liam Martin's come in for DSAF.
Yeah, wow. Tommy Turbo.
Sorry, just before we move off TPJ, can I ask you, do you think if Spencer Leniu was available, he would have been a shot there? He was a guy that I thought was a really good chance to
Well,
get in.
that's another guy, Spencer Leno, I probably would have had before TPJ.
Yeah, he's injured, obviously, but he's,
The TPJ, as I said, I think we all agree, it could be the greatest decision all time.
As a Queenslander, what's your like? Does it worry you? Does it like?
It's just the unknown.
Yeah.
Like, I think... I just don't know what Tavita Pangai Jr. is like mentally right now. Is he in a really good, strong place? Then it's like, ooh, those offloads, that ball running could be tough. But at the same time, I feel like Queensland probably have the fire to combat the fire. And I would argue that Queensland's fire will last longer. We know Flegler can play long minutes if he has to. We know Collins can do it. It's just the unknown. It's just the unknown. I don't know what TPJ is going to turn up. If the greatest of his potential is worrying.
And you're going to know on the first hit up.
You'll know.
You're going to be able to tell.
The one thing I will say about it is I do like that because we've got this side now with Trell and Tommy Turbo and Teddy. So we've got these just attacking weapons who are just going to be roaming all around the ruck. We might even see Fox do it a little bit too at times. You do want that second phase play, and it's probably not a big offloading pack in that Junior Bowler, he will when he's on. Payne Haas, he's got an offload. But Frizzell, not really. Hudson Young, not really. Isaiah, not really. Murray, Martin, all these guys are pretty well tuck it under the arm. Murray's got the link game, but not big offloaders. So TPJ ties into that well, even if there was Jake Trbojevic, not a prolific offloader by any means, ever, essentially. So it will be good for that second phase play, and when you've got Tommy Turbo and co sniffing around the arc, it'll bring them into it a lot. So that's a thought.
Hudson Young, selected. Thoughts? Olakau'atu, Young, probably fighting for that spot.
I love it, but I'll throw to Timmy to talk about Hudson.
I think it's so well deserved. What he's done is, Hutto, he's strung together consistent form for a long period of time. We know he's got these big moments in him and big flashy plays and ultra bits of skill, but he's now done it for a pretty lengthy period and going, this isn't just a flash in the pan sort of big plays. And he's been one of the Raiders' best for a long time now. He's a mongrel. I think he's made for State of Origin footy. I think he did a really good job.
I think there's a really telling moment. Like, obviously, he got sent for 10 yesterday's game, which was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. But there's a really telling moment that I think shows you how far Hudson Young has come and how he has been able to control get to that red line and not go past it. Whereas 2 years ago, with everything that happened, getting suspended constantly, all this crazy stuff, Sean Kepi jogs past him and says something. Hudson Young doesn't even. He just goes like that, whatever. Old Hudson Young from a few years ago, they are punching on 100%.
I reckon Freddie decided in that moment. Yep, he's in.
Just to know, it didn't even faze him. He just was just like, whatever.
Yeah, and it was like it wasn't even a conscious effort of him going, I'm probably about to get picked for the Blues. I cannot afford to get suspended for a week. He didn't blink.
He didn't even blink. He was just like, because I had him on the podcast and he said, I don't know if he still speaks to, it wasn't necessarily a sports psychiatrist. It was just someone, it may have been a sports psychiatrist, about processes that he does to make sure he doesn't go into that red mist kind of rage. And you can tell all that work he's been doing off the field, he's nailed it. He's still got all the aggression that you'd want, gets in the niggle, but never goes to that point of like, bruh, that's way too far. And I thought on the weekend, because Kepi wanted it. Kepi wanted that fight. He wanted that fight. You don't run past. So Hudson Young was walking off. Kepi, boom, went on his bike. He didn't even get that. He was already gone, and the ref was calling him back because he knew something was about to happen. And so he gets right up to his shoulder, says something to him. Hudson Young didn't even break a sweat. He was just like...
You even saw when they went off the field as well. You think, Battle of Brookie.
Yep.
Adam Blair, Glenn Stewart. They were right next to each other, and Kepi was lipping up to him, and Hudson was like, hey, piss off.
Just whatever.
I've never been so equally happy and disappointed in the one moment.
I know, because Kepi wanted that. Yeah. He wanted that desperately, which is like fair play to him too. Like, I love that shit. But also, Hudson Young just shows you the maturity, and that doesn't come overnight. He didn't just wake up and be able to handle it. He's put a lot of work in off the field to get himself in that mindset, and now he's getting rewarded for it with an Origin jersey.
Yeah, and he would have built himself up all week going, I'm going head-to-head with Olakau'atu here. It's probably a Blues jersey in between us. Winner takes all here. And for him to control himself, I'd love to know what Kepi said. Surely he said, you've just cost yourself a Blues jersey or something.
Maybe something along those lines.
I hope he said that, and I hope that Hudson just went, yeah, sweet, you keep walking.
Sweet, all good. Just massive congratulations to Hudson Young. And there's so much that we don't see as fans that goes into, again, we have to remember this guy's record. When he came in, what was it, eye gouge twice.
Yeah, 3 times, yeah. He didn't miss.
Did not miss. And Ricky Stewart, I think the first time Ricky Stewart, he said on the podcast, was supportive of him. The second time Ricky Stewart gave him some tough love, like, mate, you are off your head. And he went away and he's worked on his game. And he's going to play for New South Wales now. That's an incredible story. And it's also a good lesson to a lot of young guys that play rugby league and girls that are hotheads, that struggle to handle their anger, and they find themselves in the bin, not getting selected for sides because they're good for 20 minutes, and then someone just got a little number 9 or a 7 just goes, oh, this is going to be too easy to rev this guy up. It's a lesson to them, like, it's great to be aggressive, but you don't get those extra plaudits in life if you aren't a professional. And Hudson Young has turned into a professional, currently good rugby league player.
And he hasn't lost any aggression. He just uses it in the right way.
Exactly. Hasn't changed the way he played. Still in the niggle all the time. He just never goes across that line where you go, geez, like, Hudson, what are you thinking, bro? And some people might go, are you serious? He literally just got sent for 10 to the bin. That was the worst 10 to the bin I've ever seen in my life. Or one of them anyway.
Could have been the worst.
It honestly could have been the worst. A little baby shoulder and then a push and shove, and then he gets sent because he got pushed. Like, come on, bro. We're playing rugby league. Jeez Louise. Massive congratulations to Hudson Young. Ola Kawatu, bit of a victim of Manly's poor form, but last probably 3 weeks, he's just dropped off a little bit. I think if the team was selected round 6, Ola Kawatu probably gets selected, or at least in the squad, off the bench maybe. So he's close, but I do think this last 3 or so weeks just been a little bit quiet. He was probably DCE, Aaron Woods, and Ola Kawatu, at least in attack, Ola Kawatu was probably the only ones that troubled Broncos when they played Broncos. And then since then, just been a little bit quiet. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I agree. I probably 3 or 4 weeks ago had Ola Kawatu on my side. And as you said, probably fair to say he's been a victim of Manly's form. But I went into yesterday feeling pretty confident Hudson was going to get a jersey. And
that's, I don't think Ola Kawatu played poorly at all. No. He just hasn't had those big moments that he had in the start of the season.
Yeah. And when you are a guy like him that's a high-impact player, you need to have those moments.
He's a big moment player. Yeah.
Does Frizzell over him surprise you? I think Hutto, I mean, obviously a bit of Canberra bias, but I think Hutto deserved that spot. Frizzell's an interesting one in terms of him getting a gig.
I just think you can't have 2 debutants playing either on the edge or coming on through the middle. Like, that's so... I mean, you're already risking in the middle with Tavita Pango Jr. Yeah. You got Hudson Young on debut.
You need some experience.
Yeah, you need... And Frizzell's been there. He's done it. And he's been playing really, really good footy for the Knights. So... Yeah, I think Ola Kawatu, you'll see him in a Blues jersey in the next couple of years, though. I'd be surprised if he doesn't make it in a Blues jersey.
The other thing that is interesting with the Tyson Frizzell one is, state me if I'm wrong, Gerbo didn't get picked for game 1 last year. He wasn't in the squad or anything. Frizzell was in the extended squad. They then made changes and he went for the more experienced and the reliable guys. Still didn't bring Tyson Frizzell into the squad despite being in the 19-man. And then to get to State of Origin game 1 this year when Frizzell is a year older and been playing good for Newcastle, but like I don't think he's in career best form or anything. Like he's not knocking down the door to get into Origin. I do think it is an interesting pick. I'm fine with it. He's an experienced guy who's a proven Origin player, but a week ago I didn't expect Tyson Frizzell to be here.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I don't mind it because of the experience.
Yep.
I don't mind it because of the experience, because when you look at that bench at the moment, as it stands, Paulo, experienced campaigner. Cam Murray, he is experienced, but he's still 25. Liam Martin, 20. He's inexperienced at Origin level. Was it been 2 or 1?
Yeah, 1 or 2
series. Let's say 2 series. So Tyson Frizzell, just that stalwart of like played a bunch of Origin.
And don't get me wrong, I like that. I'm the same as you. I like the pick now that it's there, but it is just hard to work out Freddie's logic sometimes when you look across series.
Well, yeah, it's like different. His logic seems different this year than it was last year.
Like completely different. Yeah, and I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's funny too because like last year didn't play Jake Trbojevic game 1, then game 2 was like, oh, experience is really important in the middle, but then he goes and makes debutant TBJ to debut starting the game. So, look, to be fair, it's not just Freddie that selects the side, though. It's a selection board, so it could have been outvoted in regards to, like maybe they have a voting system where I will want this player.
I would just love to be a fly on the wall in that room.
I would love to hear
the conversations and how they,
because they'd have good reasons.
Like I have no doubt they would.
Yeah.
So who's on there? Obviously, Freddie, Brandy.
I think so. Yep.
Who else? Bedsy.
Is Joey in it?
He could be now, but when I was there, it was Freddie, Brandy, and Bedsy would meet every
In
week.
Queensland is Lockyer,
Gene
Slater,
Miles.
and Gene Miles. Okay, so all in all, we'll talk about Tom Trbojevic. Correct decision after yesterday?
Yeah, a week ago I didn't see a world where I'd pick him, but if Turbo showed what he could do yesterday down in Canberra. Did you catch that game?
Yeah. How'd you go?
Enjoy that one?
No, I went to the beach.
Up the cockatoos.
Oh, yeah, we can't win every game. Mate. 5 on the try. Tommy Turbo, what he did yesterday, yeah. I'm same as you. I didn't have him in the blue side a week ago, and after I was like, knockdown selection.
Yeah.
That try that he scored in the corner, where he just backed himself. As soon as he did that, I went, okay.
And it's not even about a lot of people go, well, these big stats. It's not about the stats. It was the way he was moving. If you watched the game, you could see that is a different bloke that came out last week. So clearly maybe he has not clearly, but it seems like maybe he had an agreement with the club. Look, first 10 rounds, I'll do exactly as you say. I'm going to stay in 80%. In return, come Origin time, I want to be let loose. And they've gone, yep, that gives us enough time to make sure your body gets through it, build some match fitness, and then, you can let loose or whatever.
It absolutely looked that way, didn't it?
Yeah.
There was the moment where he put Jason Sarbaway down the right wing, and I felt like 3 weeks ago, Turbo would have dropped off at that point because it was a 2-on-1. There were other players there, and he kept supporting the middle. Even when he got the ball, he didn't slow down for those next 30 metres.
No,
he
didn't.
No hesitation.
Didn't pull up.
All.
The try that he scored on the drop play from Schuster was moving at full clip, smooth, weaving, everything. Whereas, a couple of weeks ago, would have been kind of jolting into it.
Talk about bittersweet viewing. Raiders getting demolished. Like Tommy Turbo, he kills most sides when he's in full swing, but geez, he's done a number on the Pride Raiders over the years. And watching him yesterday, like just from the Blues perspective, I'm like, this is sweet.
Oh, it's so good for the Blues.
At least there's a silver lining to getting pumped.
And imagine if he didn't stand and deliver like that yesterday, we would have got to this morning and found out Campbell Graham couldn't play.
Well, that's the thing. Campbell Graham would have been started, essentially starting, and then an hour later. But that's what I'm not understanding. You really reckon Campbell Graham, sternum injury, 10 days, you reckon he would get needled up any day of the week to play Origin? That's what's surprising.
I reckon if Campbell Graham got picked, he'd be playing.
100% he'd play.
I would, no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
Maybe the club's pulled rank.
Probably. Yeah.
Maybe Freddie called him and he said, yep, good to go. Even though the club knew that he had a niggle, and the club's like, mate, we need you back to rehab you to make sure you're not training your ass off during the week or whatever. That could be a possibility. The club was like, look, if you're not going to be starting, you shouldn't be at the camp. Because he's already been to camp, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was there last year.
Yeah. But again, even if you look at it that way, it's still poor communication.
Yeah.
Like you should know before announcing the team that he's not available.
To be honest with you, the whole thing's been a bit of a shit fight. From we got to yesterday, and no one had any idea when the team was coming out.
Yeah, I know.
There was different times being thrown around. We then get to 9 a.m. I think it came out at about 9:25. Like just little things, but it's the hallmark of our game. Just get it right.
Yeah, it's surprising that we don't have. It's such a celebrated time. We should have set deadlines, so everyone's by their phones waiting, oh shit, and then Instagram bloody shits itself this morning.
How typical is that?
Oh my God! I'm like, do you understand Instagram? Origin's on. I know that you're a worldwide service, billions of people, but Origin's here, you dogs.
But even I don't understand how why are teams getting named on Monday at 9 a.m. when everyone's I think it should be either the Sunday night, 8:30, make a show out of it. Do something, or have it on the Monday night.
There should be a show 100% about it.
How are we not building a show around that?
Both coaches name their sides live, and they do it as a build anticipation.
Cool.
And at number 1, we're going Reece Walsh, and the reason why we pick, and then you know what I mean. At number 2, Like the draft system to a degree.
Wouldn't it be so cool?
And you don't even have to both be in the same studio. You could just do a cross to New South Wales and to Queensland. They present their team. They're all going to be together anyway.
I know.
I remember they used to do, like, even when they had announced it, it was both of them, or definitely the Blues, at half time in the Sunday game. I get now the need to, like, half of football can have an impact on an Origin selection, so they wait, particularly if, there's injuries and that sort of thing. But just Sunday night, everyone's sitting at home. The footy's just finished for the weekend. Just announce it then. It's such a good time.
It'll be big too. And, like, the sponsors that can get on board, the interaction. You could have people voting, like, on TikTok, you could have people voting who they think is going to get selected. There's just so many things you could do with it. But, we're rugby league. Rugby league. Okay. Great stuff from the big fella, Tom Trbojevic. I'm just trying to think. Anyone else here that we need to talk about?
Mate, I'm so glad to see Liam Martin's named. When I saw those teams coming out last night and he wasn't part of it, that really worried me.
I didn't believe it. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe the dog, the fucking dog that is Liam Martin isn't in Origin. It would be a travesty. I'd be like, look, put in your New South Wales fucking passport. Come to Queensland, mate. We love
And
you.
that's the thing. When I look at our side, if I had to pick a player that most represents what I think a Queenslander is,
It's fucking Liam
it's
Martin.
Liam Martin.
100% it's Liam Martin.
And for
100%.
years, he does. He would finish a game with 50 run meters, and everyone would jump online and give him shit and say he doesn't do anything. You don't know what you're looking at. The little things this guy does throughout the game, his kick chase, you don't want to play him.
Well, go back to the game versus New Zealand. Statistically, it wasn't crazy. He was snapping blokes like Nelson and Solomona.
Like, if he starts on the right edge, opposite for Feeder, I guarantee you when that team list comes out, Feeder's going to go, oh, fuck me. Here we go.
Just to add to this Campbell Graham thing, the Rabbitohs have just released a very, very carefully worded press release. South Sydney centre Campbell Graham has been withdrawn from State of Origin squad by the Blues today. For a number of weeks, Graham has been...
Blues?
But it gets better. For a number of weeks, Graham has been managing his training loads at the beginning of each week to allow him to be fit on game day. Unfortunately, this meant he would not be able to be fully involved in the Blues' early sessions this week, and as a result, they withdrew him from the squad. The Souths are trying to make it clear that they didn't withdraw him.
So the training load, say the training load a bit again.
For a number of weeks, Graham has been managing his training loads at the beginning of each week to allow him to be fit on game day.
Oh, so he's carrying an injury and they're being smart about it, so he's good to go. The Blues don't like that. He must be ready to go full contact day one, it sounds like.
And they must have just realised that. They must have done medical this morning, and that's what's happened.
That's a bit rough on Campbell Graham. So he didn't even get pulled out by South.
Yeah.
So they've done a medical this morning.
Oh, sorry, and I missed this line. Graham will return to the Rabbitohs squad today and will be assessed throughout the week as to whether he plays against the Raiders.
Wow.
In other words, he probably plays.
He's playing. He'll get picked tomorrow for sure.
That's rough on Campbell Graham. Just because he can't train full contact for the first couple of days. Like, we're talking about a young guy that could be your centre long term or on the wing. Like, let's say the Fox or even To'o, but let's say the Fox struggles or whatever. Campbell Graham could be on the wing for you guys for the next 5 years.
It's also not like we've selected him to play.
So he doesn't need to.
Stern on that Barty can't wear a fucking tracksuit this week. Like, but have him in there. Why wouldn't he be in there?
And then, like, I understand. Like, Campbell Graham is such a good bloke. It probably won't sting him at all. But this is how you create that weird kind of like, what, you sent me home because I can't do contact on the first 2 days? Does that make you as passionate to play because you got brushed like that? I just don't know. I don't know if as a player, I'd be feeling a bit down and upset.
I mean, yeah, like he's one injury away, essentially to the back five of the Blues. If any of those five gets injured between now and game 2, he's playing, I think.
So why wouldn't he be in camp? Critter's also already done a camp. Critter's also already debuted.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's rough on the kid.
Could he still be going to camp maybe? Or it's in Adelaide, so...
Well,
where are they?
Blues have brushed him.
Where's camp at?
Well, not brushed him, sorry, wrong words.
Camp's at Coogee, so...
Yeah, brushed him's wrong words. But it sounds like Blues were the ones that said, if you can't train early on with your training load, then you shouldn't come along.
And he's returned to Rabbitohs training today.
Is that potentially what it is that the Blues have said we want to see you get through your game for the Bunnies? And we're going to pick Stephen Crichton, who's got a bye this weekend. I'm trying to find logic in the situation. Like,
I'm looking at it purely from creating a good relationship with a player.
Yep.
And I just don't know why disappointing a young fella like that, if that is the case of what happened, because we don't know for sure, but it sounds like the Blues have gone, mate, if you're carrying any niggles, go home, get rehabbed or whatever. Because Campbell Graham clearly wanted to be in camp. He's there.
I think the logic in it is that he's coming in there, he has to train throughout the week as a backup centre, essentially, for the team, or winger. We talk about combinations every week on this podcast. They're in training full time, developing these relationships with the blokes around him, those combinations. The Blues, based on that press statement, the release that he can't do that because he won't be training properly. So I said, right, we'll bring in Critter.
But like,
who can do that? I don't agree with it, but that's the way it sounds like.
What couldn't he do outside of contact?
Yeah, just wear your bib.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Outside of contact, he couldn't do. Yeah. And also, he's the next in line. You know, like if someone goes down this week or in game 1 or whatever, does that mean Critter gets a spot now? Even though Campbell Graham has been the form outside back of the whole season? I don't know. I think it's a bit tough on the young lad. I would have personally allowed him to not do contact. I would have got him around the boys as long as I could, because I know that he could be our centre or our winger for the next 5 to 6 years.
Call me negative, but why doesn't this sort of stuff ever happen to you guys?
We just sweep it under the rug, that's why.
But what? It's just constantly, there's just illogical things that happen that I can't make sense of. It's
tough on the poor fella, because he's clearly rocked up, ready to go. And they've gone, mate, sorry, if you're not 100%, we can't have you. I mean, look, Critter is also young. I know he's had his debut, and he was okay off the bench, didn't get much chance, and then he struggled a little bit in his second game, I think. But I guess you can see where the Blues are coming from, though. They're like, mate, if you're here, you need to be good to go, training, day one, ripping and a tearing. Campbell Graham, I love him as a player.
He'll get his chance.
Hopefully.
He'll get his chance, and it could be.
But that's the problem. People thought that with Reid Marnie. He goes back and plays, does his shoulder. He may never play Origin. And yet, if he didn't do his play, he definitely would have played Origin. So it's like,
I think the difference why I see that is Reid Marnie, your number 9 or nothing. There's 4 spots in that back line that Campbell Graham can slot into. At some point, there's one's got to pop up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess. I just think because he's the next in line, I'd have him in his camp as long as I could. If he's next in line with an injury, Josh Adokar just come back from injury. Tommy Trbojevic, obviously. Teddy could get a head knock. Trelly Mitt, he's been pretty solid. To'o never bloody gets injured.
I mean, the Bunnies' new headquarters in Maroubra, literally next door to Coogee, the suburb across.
Yeah,
he's a Coogee Wombat.
Far out. But yeah, look, congratulations to Critter and Stefano for getting called in. The Stefano one's interesting how that wasn't a part of the initial, because you would have always brought in. Anyway, anything else to talk about? And just all that in regards to Campbell Graham, we genuinely don't know exactly what's happened. It seems as though that the training load is the...
Yeah, we haven't got any communication from New South Wales Rugby League yet, so...
Yeah, so there could be more to it. He could be genuinely touch and go to play this week, but then I'd assume he'd be good. Anyway, congratulations to Critter. Critter played fantastic on the weekend. He was outstanding on the weekend, Critter. Anything else to talk about, Blue Side boys?
No.
All good, mate.
We'll get you.
Okay. Now, on to the mighty Maroons. Let's go, baby. At number 1, Reece Walsh.
Pick and stick my ass.
2, Selwyn Cobbo.
Yeah.
It's called player welfare, mate. You should read up about it. Just taking care of...
Yeah, look at how we're taking care of Campbell Graham. Got them all.
2, Selwyn Cobbo. 3, Valentine Holmes. 4, The Hammer. 5, Murray Tuolangi. 6, Cam Munster. 7, DCE. 8, to start, Thomas Flegler. 9, Benny Hunt. 10, Lindsay Collins. 11, Tommy Gilbert. 12, David Fafita. 13, Paddy Carrigan. 14, Harry Grant. 15, Tino Fa'asoma Alawi. Got off his charge. Just got a fine. 16, Ruben Cotter. 17, Jairo. 18, Dearden. 19, Christian Welsh. Initial reactions, boys?
I think we've got to start at the 1 jersey, don't we?
You can stay wherever you want, baby.
I expected KP to be named there, knowing what I know of Queensland and how they pick and stick and everything. And I thought he was. And I don't think he got your player of the series last year, but I would have given it to him personally. So I thought he was going to be there. That one really surprised me. I understand the HIA argument and all that sort of stuff, but I just think that KP's been so good for Queensland for so long that I would have picked him there for sure. That one surprised me.
Yeah, I am smiling from ear to ear not seeing KP's name there.
Yep.
After, I'm still having nightmares about him decimating, killing us last season. And Reece Walsh, I cannot wait to see Reece Walsh in the Origin arena, just purely as a footy fan and saying, all right, you're dominating the NRL, step up, what do you got at the biggest level? But, yeah, no Kalen Ponga. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a bit of a concussion concern around him. We know they'll target him if he's there, but the fact is that he's back at fullback. He doesn't have to make 25 tackles a game. I'm very relieved to not see KP's name.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I probably would have been gone KP, but when you look at it, he's had 2 games back now?
Yep.
And he got HIA in one of them.
Yep.
Pretty dramatically. As in... The one this week, and I know he came back on, he was all good, but he got hit hard. It wasn't just a little chop around he got hit hard and was down. So, oh man, 7 games in 10 months, I think it is. So I can understand from that perspective, but I personally probably still would have gone Kalen.
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but if it's 7 games in 10 months or whatever, I remember the 2 games in 10 months where he was the best player on the field against us. So I'm the same as Tim. I'm happy not to see KP named from a New South Wales perspective. I know that Reece Walsh is a tremendous player and it scares the living shit out of me sending Reece Walsh to spend 2 weeks with Billy Slater. But I know that KP will deliver on the big stage every single time. I think Reece Walsh will, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And Reece Walsh absolutely has the ability, but going into Origin, you can't afford to make 3 errors. Going for the big play each, you need to be basically 1 error is too many in Origin.
He's a freak in attack, we know that, but he's far from flawless, when it comes to probably not so much defensive positioning, but, one-on-one defensively when he is required to make some tackles. He's had a few mistakes where he probably goes a little bit too hard at things. So
I wonder if they rein that in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Walsh is a star and he'll probably spend a lot of time in this Queensland squad over the next decade, but just when it's at the expense of KP, who, as Guru said, you just know KP will not only come in and deliver, but he can single-handedly win you a game. To be fair, Walsh probably can too, but we haven't seen it.
We just haven't seen it. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying on regards to I probably would have had KP there. I think if he gets through yesterday's or on the weekend's game, no HIA, I think he probably gets selected. But heading into camp, after all the head knocks he's had, to get another head knock. So what's that? Is that 3 HIAs so far this year? Yeah? Because he had the first one where they thought it wasn't a HIA where he stayed down and he went off against the Warriors.
Yep.
Then he had the one against the Tigers, completely knocked out.
Yeah.
Had 5 or 6 weeks off. Then he had another HIA on the weekend.
3, yeah.
So it's three in 12 weeks of rugby league.
3, 1 failed. Badly.
Yeah. I still probably would have had Kalen there. But I'm stoked for Reece Walsh. What a journey. What a climb to first grade, to Origin. Going away, coming back to be with his family at the Brisbane Broncos. And if you ever wanted an example of sometimes the bigger contract is definitely not worth it, look at Reece Walsh. Is he playing Origin if he isn't at the Broncos? Is he the superstar that we see in the game today if he isn't at the Broncos? Probably not.
Yeah, and as much as, I'm happy to see Reece Walsh there because KP scares me more. The thing that scares me so much about Reece is what I've always loved about him. He's just trying to win the game, always.
And that's the thing that is similar to Billy Slater. Billy Slater would always be trying to win the game from any part of the field. And I think he likes that in Reece Walsh, that he just goes for it. But the glass half empty take on it is that sometimes Reece goes for it too much. And you can't do that in Origin. You get punished for that in Origin.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether Billy's going to be able to find that balance with Reece and go, mate, you are incredible in attack. Just got to pick your moments. I will say, as a Brisbane fan, thank you. 2 weeks, a whole 3. If we get 3 games with Billy Slater training, Are you kidding me? Thank you.
I think from a Brisbane perspective, obviously the Reece Walsh issues, I also think the confidence that Flegler's going to take from being a starting front rower is going to be
One of the Dolphins.
devastated you're losing him. And so sorry to take it off Reece Walsh, but I think there's a really good couple of wins in this for Brisbane.
The Reece Walsh one, if he comes out, has 2 try assists and is on the highlight reel forever, wouldn't surprise me. Comes out, has 2 try assists, but also has 2 errors, probably wouldn't surprise me. It is going to be interesting to see when the heat is turned up, how does Reece respond?
What's this bloke made of?
Yeah, because they are going to absolutely, every time he gets the ball, he's getting hit hard and put to the ground hard, pressure on his head, everything that you can think of in Origin, all the little tiny things you don't see. It's going to be interesting to see how he reacts. I think he reacts like a champion. He just needs to make sure that you can't stay down. You can't, this is sore, that's sore. Yeah. You get straight back to your feet, get to your next job. Now, I think he's improved that this year alone. Like at the start of the year, there were a few times, even in preseason, he got hit, stayed down. Then he was sweet. In Origin, you just can't do that. You got to be bombed straight
so
up.
exciting because he's got all the elements to be an absolute superstar of our game. But long term, it means nothing if you don't have ticker. I'm not saying Reece Walsh doesn't, but this is where you find out if a player does have ticker or not.
And it is interesting because you look through the history of the Maroons, most guys, before they come into the spine, they've got to wear the 14. They've got to go on and play lock.
Yeah.
Get beaten to a pulp and show that they can handle it. Reece Walsh has skipped that.
Straight in there. Do you reckon, this is hindsight hero kind of stuff, but do you think the fact that KP's been in the front line, had to make more tackles, if he had played fullback from day one this year, would he have lost his spot? I know it's hindsight.
I didn't want to ask the question, but
he still could have got head high at fullback. He still could have got a HIA. But I do think being in the front line increases the likelihood of contact.
Quite possibly. And I just wonder if, maybe if he was just playing fullback in general, that might have lent Billy to pick him there.
Well,
I
think
don't know.
we spoke, we were quite vocal about it in the pre-season, saying we want him to stay at fullback for that reason alone, that we just didn't want him making all those tackles in the front line with his concussion history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all 3 of his concussions have been making tackles, haven't they, this season?
2, and then I think one was going for a ball.
One going for a ball.
Yeah,
okay,
but the 2 big ones.
Yeah, were making tackles that if he's at fullback, I know it's different. You jump high balls, you probably get that contact in the air and hit the deck hard, but you make 3 or 4 or 5 tackles a game. So, probably.
Wow, Reece Walsh in Origin. It truly, he is a showstopper. He is a showstopper. But it's also interesting how different he is to Tedesco. Such a different player. Like they are so different. Cannot wait. And I hope Reece kills it. Absolutely kills it.
Wouldn't want to be playing Newcastle this weekend, just quietly.
Oh, because KP will be
Not
filthy.
to mention Gagai.
Oh, Gagai and KP.
That's absolutely cheering, hey, going from we're about to lose KP, Gagai, probably Saifidi to, no, you're like full strength.
You're full strength. You're good
That's
to
the
go.
other thing too. There'd be a few Saifidis sitting up there going, Tavita, over us, we've been there and done it.
Yeah, we've been there and done it and played relatively well. Look, the KP situation, I wonder if the conversation purely was, mate, just get through this week and then, because let's say Reece Walsh just plays solidly and KP plays the next 3 weeks well. Does KP get the spot back because of his history?
He has to, doesn't he?
Surely.
He's the man. He's your number one
Yeah.
when there's no concerns and he's fit and good to go. So, yes, I think so. If he gets through the next 3 weeks leading into Origin 2.
Surely.
Imagine if, again, great position to be in, but let's say Walsh kills at game 1 and then KP the next 3 weeks, which would surprise no one, kills it for the night, and then they go, we can only pick one of you. It's a great position to be in, but it's
In saying that, you say, if KP kills it next week, he plays Manly this week, he's got a bye, doesn't he?
Got the bye, then round 15.
So will he get 2 games in or only one?
KP, 2 games. Yeah, so 13, round 13, bye, then he'll play round 15, and then Origin's round 16, which so 2
will
games.
they pick the team after round 15 though? Is that?
Yeah, after.
Yeah.
So you get two games.
Okay.
And another thing that a lot of people, they're not going to pick up on, but here at Bloke, we're going to pick up on this stuff. Hottest fullback all time, Origin. Just said it. No, there's never been a hotter fullback.
I'm going to raise you an Anthony Minicello.
Oh, yes.
You're kidding. Reece
Yes.
Walsh. I love the count, but come on. Reece Walsh, hottest fullback all time. All time. Doesn't come close.
Have you seen Mini with his lid off, mate?
Down you go.
It's more than just a head.
Wow, he's a grasping at straws there. Jeez Louise. Reece Walsh, pretty boy Reece. Eyelashes that won't quit. You kidding? Now, number 2, Selwyn Cobbo, Valentine Holmes. But the big 2 selections, in my opinion, Hamiso, the Hammer at 4, Tuolangi at 5, Dan Gagai, Origin Gagai, not selected. And there's some smiles and smirks on the faces because Origin Queenslanders always talk about picking and sticking. What are your thoughts on this selection?
I'm shocked. I really am. Everything I've come to know. Like, I remember, years ago, I think it was Billy, was it the 2018 Origin series? Billy Slater missed the 17. They didn't pick him. They kept Darius Boyd at fullback. That's always been the way that Queensland has operated. To leave Dane Gagai out, to leave 2 guys in Gagai and KP, who I think have been consistently fantastic for Queensland, that I thought club form didn't matter. I'm shocked. I really am. When the rumours came out last night, I didn't believe it.
Timmy?
Yeah. Gagai's been pretty decent this year. He's been caught out defensively a couple of times, particularly on the weekend. I think if there was a centre knocking the door down to come into that spot, maybe I'd understand it. But to shift a fullback to centre, playing out of position, I know Hammer's done it at Origin before and he did a really good job a couple of years ago. But like when I look at a team named, I go, all right, where are their weaknesses there and where's an opportunity to attack? And I'm looking at that going, Hammer. He's a bloke playing out of position. He's going to be asked to make some big defensive reads. Will he be on Latrell Mitchell? Because Val plays left for the Cowboys. So Hammer, with that, you'd assume he probably slots in on the right, which would put Latrell on him. I'm just going, licking my lips going, you beauty. Latrell's going to eat him for dinner.
You know what? Said the same thing when he had to mark Turbo a couple of years ago, and not only did he hold his own, I think he got the better of Turbo in that game. So I understand where you're coming from. That was my first thought, but the more I sat there and thought about it, and go back and watch that game, defensively, he did so well against Tommy Trbojevic in that game. I also think that naming Hamiso, I agree with you. I think he'll be at right centre. I would assume then Tommy Gilbert will be at right edge back row. So I'd say that probably that little Cowboys combination that have played together previously, but you are still picking, in my opinion, 2 guys not playing their best position.
And that's as soon as I saw both these sides, go through them, bang, bang, I looked at that and went, yes, that's where the Blues are going because 2 blokes out of position.
If you were picking, like if they could have picked Felice Kafusi there, I'd probably feel more comfortable with Hamiso.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's obviously a spot New South Wales have to go at, but once again, I thought they'd go at it the last time Hamiso played, and he did incredibly well.
Without going sort of too far down the list, while we're talking about the centres, it does all tie in. Are we convinced? And I know Billy's really good at picking his side, and that's what runs out. I love it about him. But Jai Arrow on the edge, like Tommy Gilbert, who's a middle, Arrow, who's been really good on the edge for the Bunnies and for different sides for a lot of time now. Do you reckon it stays that way with Gilbert on the edge?
Well, Arrow has come out and actually said he enjoys coming off the bench for the Rabbitohs. He actually likes it. I think he even said I'm a better bench player recently. And he has been coming off the bench for the Rabbitohs for at least the last few weeks. So I actually think that the team selected is going to be the team that runs out.
Yeah, he doesn't change much, Billy. And I think Jai Arrow is a better middle, but team-wise, I would prefer Arrow on the edge and Gilbert playing as a middle, which he does week in, week out for the Finns.
I have a question. Do you think that if Kafusi was available, because Kafusi would have been in Billy's side up until yesterday, do you reckon Gilbert would have, that was a straight in, or do you reckon Gilbert would be on the bench somewhere?
Definitely on the bench, in my opinion.
Gilbert probably on the bench for Arrow, maybe. Yeah, Gilbert probably in for Arrow.
I think Gilbert is still right up there as far as the most underrated players in this competition.
He's had a great year for the Dolphins. The Hamiso Gagai situation, I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked. I would have had Hamiso on the wing, Gagai in the centres. I understand he played, got absolutely torn up by Connor Tracy, but I feel he's been playing better footy for most of the year than he was last year. Very, very surprising. Very surprising. I think, look, maybe they've had chats internally or to each other, and maybe Gagai has said, my body's not right or whatever, but there's no whispers of that. There's no mail of that. I'm really, really surprised. And I would, Tuolangi, when he played Origin, has done well and did okay for Australia as well. But this year, he hasn't been setting the world alight, Tuolangi. So quite surprised there. Now, maybe Billy's going for youth there, and that's something he's looking at because, you know, you've got Gagai, he's 32, whereas Hamiso is like 22, 23. Murray Tuolangi, relatively young too. Selwyn young. Holmes, still only about 28, I think. Reece Walsh, obviously young. But, yeah, I am very surprised.
So Queensland's right edge, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, will be DCE, Gilbert, Hammer and Cobbo.
And so, like that, defensively...
Very questionable.
Is very questionable.
Very questionable. At the same time, though, attacking-wise, if Queensland can get Reece Walsh and Hamiso in the right spots up against Latrell Mitchell on that edge, and with Hudson Young, who I assume will be inside him, who haven't defended together before... Like it's lightning quick. Like you straight away go, oh, how's he going to handle Latrell? How's Latrell going to go handling Reece Walsh and him if they're on the front foot with the pace those two have?
Well, the Reece Walsh on Latrell swinging around is going to be really interesting because Latrell, we know he can defend, but he's so big. That pace that Reece Walsh hits, whereas Trell is a top speed kind of guy. Once he gets to his top speed, it's in one of the most best sights in rugby league. But you're right. When Reece hits that afterburners and makes centres make decisions, sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, I think it's more probably on, of that left edge. So it'll be Luai. I think Luai's the man. He's the one who Walsh is going to be going across. It'll be 3-on-3, and then he puts the afterburners.
That's what I'm saying. Trell will have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I come in? Yeah. Do I stay out? Am I quick enough to come in?
Yeah.
Do I need to be closer to Luai to negate that speed difference?
Yeah.
And so, obviously, Luai is the one that he'll be wrapping around on, but Latrell will be probably the one making a tough call.
I think that's more decision-making rather than like talk about Trell as a big body and that. I don't think that will be the difference. Will be right. Can he make the right decision at centre, which I back him to.
But with Latrell, his body, he's so big laterally, he'll have to change his spacing potentially.
And you've also got Hudson inside, who he's never played at this pace before.
And so what Guru's point as well is like, but then he has to deal with Hamiso as well with his speed. So does he go further out to deal with Hamiso's speed and say, I'm not going to give Hamiso the sideline because he's so quick, or do I come further in just in case Luai gets beaten with Reece Walsh's speed? You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, look, if there's one guy that can do it, it's Latrell Mitchell. Like we're talking, like Latrell Mitchell.
Because it's only going to take Reece Walsh to get on the outside shoulder of his man once, and that could be game.
Yeah. Luai has a night in front of him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. To be fair though, KP coming out the back has been just as hard, I'd say, and you know, outside of last year, he dealt with it last year as well. But yeah, I mean, these are the tiny details that I think Billy Slater probably is relying on in regards to the Reece Walsh Hamiso combination of just pure speed kind of thing. I hope Hamiso kills it. I mean, he's earned it. He's earned a Queensland jersey. He's been so good this year. Murray Tuolangi, that's an interesting one. As I said, he's been good, but for club, I think he's been solid. Can you get his stats up for club, please? Now, to be fair, Cowboys have struggled. He's a winger, usually in struggling teams. Very hard for a winger to impact games. He is one of the best finishers in the game, though, Tuolangi. Jeez, he can finish a try.
Did go on the Kangaroo Tour as well.
Yeah, and he played well when he played too.
Okay, so he's played 10 games, 2 tries, 16 tries, tackle breaks, 1 try assist, averaging 141 metres.
140's all right.
140's all right. 140, yeah. So maybe he's a victim of Cowboys because there are only 2 tries.
I think, as you said, Campy, I don't mind the Tuolangi selection in that in a very ordinary Cowboys side all year, it's so hard for wingers to get much opportunity. So I think that's all right.
When do you think he made the decision to leave Gagai out? Do you like surely he was in the team last week, right?
Yeah, you'd have to say so. I think that it really concerned Billy watching him get dusted by Tracy. But then you go, well, Val got absolutely dusted, but Val is the Dally M centre of the year. So it's like...
Yeah, but Gagai's been... has there been a better Queenslander in the last 6 years? Like when you think about all of it put together?
I'm with you. Like I think Gagai, should have got selected. I would have had Gagai there and Hamiso on the edge. Yeah, but I do think the decision probably happened after the game on the weekend. I think as well as, maybe they look at players like Gagai and Ponga and they go, Origin is just around the corner. We need you. You don't necessarily have to be in the best form, but we need you ripping in. We need to see how desperate you are to be in the Queensland side. Maybe that's something that we're looking at.
Averaging 165 metres a game this year, Gagai.
He's been
from
good.
Centre, he has.
Defensive reads been a bit off,
but you back him to get that right in Origin time and time again.
Because he has got it right time and time again.
Except when Jack Whiten gave him a bath. But anyway, that's in the past.
That's a name I do not want to talk about over the next few weeks.
Jeez, he would have been a good 14.
Oh.
Where's Josh Papali'i? Is he?
No, he's not there, but...
Yeah, because
we've got young fella,
they're focused
Tino,
on the middle.
Paddy.
They've got their priorities
Never
right.
happened in Queensland.
Yeah, Tino, Paddy, Ruben. All good.
Turning down jerseys left, right and centre.
Care Master 6, 7. Thoughts on Flegler starting? Flegler Collins.
I wouldn't have done it, but now I've seen it. I kind of love it. It's going to be unreal.
It's got Origin written all over it.
100% it does. Yeah. As I said, I hope the coaches have a gentleman's agreement this week. There he goes. I'll play TBJ if you play Flegler. Deal. Don't be a coward and back out of it. We both play him.
Both play him. So, thoughts on Flegler clearly taking probably Christian Walsh's spot, I'd say. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, when Josh Papali'i retired from Origin footy during the week, I sort of thought to myself, Christian Walsh straight in. I thought they'd pick one of those two. So to see Walsh not named, and I had Flegler maybe as a bench player. To see him starting it's really shocked me. And, part of me wants to say, maybe they won't run out like that, but you two are right. Slater does tend to name his side and then run with that. So, not a decision I would have made, but now that it's there, it worries me as a New South Wales fan.
Timmy?
Yeah, I like the selection. We all love Tommy Flegler on this panel, don't we? Think the world of him, a bit like yourself, Guru. I thought we love him as the impact off the bench, coming onto a tiring pack. He's got a bit of footwork for a big fella. He comes off the back fence. I like him there, but you look at the blokes that would have started before, and maybe you could have started Jair up front, but Cotter, he has the same impact where when he comes in against a tiring pack, his footwork and speed is just... He carves us to bits, so I can understand that. Tino, same thing, the X factor off the bench. Yeah, I think it's a really good selection.
Lindsay Collins, Benny Hunt, obviously. Gilbert on the edge.
Talk to us there, Campy. I don't love it.
I think, go back when he made his debut. Did he debut on the edge? Could you get up where he played? Because he actually played really well for us in Origin Game 3 last year. Played really well for us. I don't mind it because he's not a massive, massive body. He plays 13 normally, so we know he can get through the minutes. His cardio is usually pretty good. Played really well this year. When I look at it, I go, who would you have instead of him? Kate Wells injured, I'm pretty sure, or may or may not be injured.
What was the go there?
I think a shoulder, he was touch or go maybe.
Felice obviously suspended.
Felice is suspended. So who else would you really go there?
I would have played Arrow on the edge over him and kept Gilbert just as a middle.
Yeah, okay.
And then obviously Nanai suspended and his form probably hadn't warranted it anyway this season, but all of a sudden you were looking for an edge, weren't you?
Yeah. So look, I'm kind of ambivalent on in regards to I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. I just don't know how it's going to go. I know what I do know is he'll have a red hot crack. I
reckon we're going to get to the end of this series and look at Tom Gilbert and go, he's one of those guys you just pick him anywhere.
Yeah, he'll just play
wherever. I think he's just one of those guys.
Love for Feeder at 12. I think he's going to be a real problem. But the guy that I am just so excited to see with an Origin under his belt is Paddy Carrigan. He is so much better than he was last year, and he was unbelievable last year. He has matured beyond his years for the Broncos week in, week out. He's giving you a 9 out of 10. He's giving you a 9 out of 10.
You ask people who the best lock forward in rugby league is, I think 99% of people say Isaiah Yeo or Cam Murray, one of the two, but he got the better of them last year without a doubt. Worries me he could quite easily get the better of them again this year.
He's coming to this game, 69 tackles, only one missed, or one or two missed, and 150 metres or something.
I wonder, so we're sort of thinking out loud because teams obviously just sort of come through this morning, but I wonder, does Dave Fafita definitely play left edge because he's comfortably played both edges throughout his career. I think we all agree, and we've seen this season, that left edge is his best. But we mentioned our concerns about that right defensive edge. I think the way Cameron Munster plays, being so sporadic all over the place, you know, having a good hard line runner like Fafita, who you want to get running the crash hard carries, isolating with the opposing half, that's what you want to get. DCE is a lot better at doing that. So maybe there's more impact. Maybe Dave Fafita is more useful playing on the right edge, running off chairs, and then you can put Gilbert with Munster. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It's just about defensively, really.
Like you see how good Olaquatu is running off chairs, and I think Fafita can do a similar sort of job. And I mean, look, I'm sure Munster probably gets the best out of him. They're just very different. I don't know if they suit each other.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, Munster is so off the cuff. He's not really getting to the line. I mean, he can if he wants to, but he's not really getting to the line, hitting holes. He's more just creating chaos and then offloading kind of thing.
I just think it's taken us years to find a sweet spot for Dave Fafita where he's confident in his footy. I wouldn't be changing it. I'd be keeping him on the left edge and I'd be sitting him as much as Nath Cleary.
Does DCE swing? Like every now and then to get Fafita the ball, DCE swings and gets in that play?
I mean, he does enough with Manly at times, so possibly.
Yeah.
I also think, like, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. DCE does it better than Cam Munster, but I'm not going to rule out Cam Munster doing anything in this arena, you know.
And that's it. Like Munster goes around, run around like a headless chook, as we know. But if there's a game plan to go, mate, at times look to square up and get him his one-on-one with Cleary, he can do it.
Yeah. And the most dangerous thing about Money in the Origin region is his running game, and to have that bloke outside him.
I will say I can see Munster like fending two blokes, getting tackled, offload to Fafita, and that becoming a real concern because then you've got big spaces and Fafita just rampaging through them.
Or the other way around.
Him offloading to Munster. Yeah, that Munster, if it is Munster Fafita, that's pretty scary. That's a defense. Like, if I'm whoever's on that edge, I'm sitting there going, ooh, this is tough.
And I think that Fafita, like, I think he's at the point now, from what I've seen over the last few weeks, where he's not relying on his half anymore. He's demanding football.
Mate, the try he scored on the weekend was ridiculous.
Crazy, yeah.
The week before, 80-metre effort, like, unbelievable.
Even the week before, the 80-metre effort was unbelievable, don't get me wrong, but the one before that, like, I think it was fourth or fifth tackle. They were looking for an option. He just said, no, just give me the ball.
Yeah.
I'll just score.
So good. Harry Green at 14, great. Tino, Ruben, Arrow, I love that bench. Fuck, I love that bench. That bench for me is just, whew.
I reckon that bench has rattled Freddie a little bit this morning. I genuinely do.
Ruben Cotter and Tino and Harry Grant coming at you. Then you get Jai Arrow for a bit of mongrel. Oh, love that bench.
Origin player, Jai Arrow.
So, yeah, he is made for Origin. Overall, biggest shock for me is the Gagai one. The Gagai and Ponga. That's a big shock. But in Billy we trust.
I said the exact same thing last year, Kempy, about Tom Dearden as 18th man. And I still don't think I understand it in terms of if he does get put into this game because of, you know, for whatever reason he gets injected. Like, Ben Hunt's there to cover the halves, which is the only position Tom Dearden can play.
I think they're moulding Dearden to take the reins.
Yeah. Oh. Does that help them for this series, though? In the future, I get that. But, like...
Well, if a front rower goes down, Tino can cover it, Cotter can cover it. If... It's probably backs.
I'm thinking more backline, though.
Like, if anyone goes down.
And even when Capewell was there, he was sort of your solution. If you wanted this 4-forward bench, Capewell could go and slot in at centre, which we've seen him do before, but he's not there now. So
if Reece goes down, Munster can go to 1, Dearden to 6.
2, 3, 4, 5.
So it's really your 2, 3 or 4 or 5 that you haven't covered. But I would argue that every bench is going to probably have somewhere you don't have covered.
Yeah, but that's 4 spots on the field. Like,
well, we look at so
let's say Cobbo gets HIA'd 2 minutes into the game. What's doing?
Cobbo gets HIA'd. Let me think. Put you on a spot here. Yeah. I mean, you're probably moving for feeder to the centres. Probably moving, or Jai maybe. Jai off a feeder. Jai to the centres.
You're just going to plug a back row there to do a defensive
which
job.
is not, like, I don't love that. And then let's say, at least if it's an illegal one and it allows them to inject the 18th man, at least if that is a Dane Gagai or someone, you've got that covered.
Oh, I can see your argument. I like the fact that they're essentially grooming him for the future. They're essentially 18th man, get you in here as soon as DC decides to retire, you are ready to go.
You do that from 19th man and you're in around the camp, you'll do the warm-up, you're in the sheds, but...
Yeah, you could. Maybe it changes for game day. I don't mind it, but I see where you're coming from in regards to put an outside back there ready to go. It is a lot of what ifs, what you'd have to be...
It's not really. There's only one injury to Cobbo, Holmes, Hammer or Taulagi, and you don't have an outside back.
Well, you can't bring the 18th man on.
No, I'm saying, but yeah.
Fair play.
I mean, you can't cover it anyway, but like, let's say the 18th man could be injected, it still wouldn't cover that.
It'd be fair play, and that means that someone's gone 10 in the bin. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that with Tom Dearden, though, like if they didn't have the two best hookers in the fucking universe, I think he would have been a 14 by now.
Yeah. I agree.
But you're right in regards to purely if the worst thing happens, foul play, Selwyn Cobbo goes down. First, you've got a bench problem in regards to outside backs.
Yeah. Even if we scratch Tom Dearden, we're just talking about the 17.
Yeah.
You won't have any injuries in the outside backs, though, mate. Don't worry.
No.
Well, it's similar to the Hines situation where he doesn't really cover any of the forward. Like he can't play 9 most likely. He's not going to come on and play 13. Who would have you put on the bench to cover that if there's an outside back that goes down?
Who could we have had?
That's the thing.
Again, like the importance of Capel there, if that's the bench you want to run with obviously the two hookers. Capel goes, geez, he can do a decent job at centre for you. So, I mean, 18th man, you could have picked a bunch of different people, but if we're talking about 17th man, because you've got the two hooker scenario, it's just not the most versatile pack regarding moving some to the outside back. So even the Blues, we've got Cam Murray there who, and obviously you want him playing the forwards, that's his position, but he can go to centre and I'm pretty confident he does a good job.
I wonder how Cotter would go on the centres because he's not that big. I wonder how he would go. Laterally, surely
handle himself there.
Yeah, but it's a good point. We are not covered in regards to outside backs. If one goes down, we'll be putting a Jai Arrow, maybe Ruben Cotter out there, maybe Fafita. I know he defended there a bit.
Maybe Fafita.
Yeah, maybe Fafita.
You know what? I reckon it'd be Fafita because he's he went to centre last year for a little bit. Remember?
Yeah.
That feels like a world ago. But
I thought you were going to send the bat signal to Jake the Snake Granville.
Get him in there.
Most versatile player in the history of rugby league.
But it's a good point, especially with the Dearden. As I said, I personally just think the Dearden one, he's been there a couple of years now. They genuinely, like, you're the future. We want you in here. You're important. You're warming up with the players. You're with the jersey on. We see you as the guy that will take over from DC going forward. But you're right. If foul play happens and outside back goes down, we are probably David Fafita goes to centre.
Yeah, you'd all of a sudden be filthy. That's not Gagai or someone.
Yeah,
so put them straight in sorted.
For sure. But you could then make the argument though, the fact that they're just bringing Dearden in so much, we may pay the dividends may be paid in 3 years' time when he is just ready to go, comfortable. We may get dividends then. So I think it's more of a long play.
Does it feel like to you that this is, I don't know if the word is turning point, but I feel like Queensland's selections this year have been different to what they usually are, what I've come to expect with Queensland. Any thoughts around that? Did you like...
Yeah.
Like even Christian Walsh not being there has really surprised me.
It's a ruthless selection.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And I think that represents what the Storm are really all about. It's a very ruthless kind of, if you want to be here, you rip and tear every week, and you can only drop below a 7 out of 10 for a performance. If you drop below, if you're a 5 out of 10, you don't belong here at the Storm. Because when you go back and look at that period of the Storm, who in their team ever played like a Barry Crocker? It just didn't really happen that often. Yeah. They may not set the world alight, but they didn't have a Barry. And so I
Grant Anderson had a tough night at Shark Park in round 12 last year. If we're getting picky.
Listen, mate, just because you're in a bad mood because you got towed up on the weekend doesn't mean you have to take it on a poor Queenslanders. We're just battlers, mate. Just doing our best. We got injury
Munster
clouds.
okay? Is he all
We got
right?
injury clouds over every player here. Like Reece, I heard he's got a fingernail that's
I
hurting.
can't get over, like, what are the chances, seriously, statisticians out there talk to me, that Munster gets injured round 12 every single year, but then has the grit to back up and play
Queenslander,
Origin
mate.
and looking at almost 100% every time.
Because he's a Queenslander, mate. Most other people wouldn't have played, but he is a Queenslander through and through.
You
So
blokes include a hangover as an injury.
So, yeah, look, anything else you wanted to talk about in this side, boys?
I just can't wait for the moon boot to come out. I can't wait for the virus to hit. There'll be some food poisoning chucked in there.
Look, you
It's all
got
gonna
everyone always complains that we want
Get the
access.
script out.
We want access, and we give you access, and we happen to get sick every now and then. Jeez Louise, we could
Logie award-winning access.
We could have
Queensland
swept it under the rug, but we don't. We give the people what they want, and that's access. And unfortunately, right now, Cam Munster might miss the whole series. He's got sore ribs. We're just trying to give you access, mate. Jeez, you New South Wales, you got to be more trusting. That's what your issue is. You're too paranoid. Too paranoid.
You want access? Put a camera on TPJ all this week. I want to see how it plays out.
I know, that
I
is
want to
going
see
to be
the big
hectic.
fella go berserk.
That is
Just
going to be
watch it.
hectic. So I'd say the from the makeup of the side, I do think your call in regards to outside back is probably, that's your weak point. If you had a weak point in the makeup of that side, what would you say the weak point of your side is? Do you think it's that the unknown of that starting forward pack of TPJ?
Yeah, I
Or Hines is, where do you put Hines in? Is that probably...
where does Hines fit in? Honestly, the thing that worries me the most is just Freddie out thinking the room a little bit. That's my biggest fear consistently every time Origin comes around. I think it's a good side that can win. I hate that we don't have a game in Sydney until game 3.
Sucks.
Makes life so difficult. We just didn't need that at all. But I also think that by picking a number of new combinations and leaving a number of key Origin players out, I think you have done us a little bit of a favour. And I'm not stoked with our team, but I'm kind of okay with your team.
As from
us
a Blues,
versing them, yeah.
a Blues perspective, like
Yes.
KP and Gagai.
If you had
then-
KP and Gago, I would be shitting myself
Yep.
about Origin 1.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
Wow. I tell you what, Billy Slater, he's put his balls on the line because there's not many coaches that would have the guts to make that call.
Yep.
And so he may be lauded as a genius, or he may experience his first tsunami of negative media post-Origin, which is going to be very interesting.
I'll tell you what, we're all big fans at the table here of Stafford Toa, but if Val Holmes comes out and kills us in game 1, I am off the Stafford Toa fan club. I will be filthy because it feels like the sort of thing that Val would do.
Oh, he is going to be so filthy, so filthy. So anything else to add, boys, in regards to Origin?
Bring it on, mate.
We'll go more detailed preview in regards to the way they'll play, matchups, all of that kind of stuff, stats of each player next week. But that's our Origin team preview done and doosted, brought to you by Bloke Beer. Get down to your local, grab a case of Bloke Beer, get into your local Liquor Legends. We're in all Liquor Legends in Queensland. Get into your local celebrations in Queensland, New South Wales, your local Bottle-O, your local Porter's Liquor, IGA Plus Liquor. Get into your local Liquor Legends. All those different independent bottle-os. We're in every celebrations in New South Wales ATT, every Liquor Legends in Queensland, every Bottle-O in New South Wales and ACT. And yeah, so you can get in there, go to our store locator, they'll show you the nearest store locator. Or if you go to an independent Bottle-O, you can just ask them politely, hey, can you order some Bloke and I beer? They should be able to order some in for you. And it is the beer of rugby league, guys. It is the beer of rugby league. No beer gets excited around Origin like we do. So grab a case of this beautiful, beautiful beer. Now on to the NRL games. Make sure if you're going to watch your footy, you could have watched this on 9 now. It's alive. It's free. You use a web browser. You use your app. Panthers defeat the Broncos 15-4. Panthers enjoyed 60% in total possession. Enjoyed a weight of possession and territory throughout the match with 60% in total. There were 5 tries disallowed in the contest, with Penrith recording 3, Broncos 2. This was, there were some tough calls in regards to, was it a double movement? Did Reece Walsh, go for the ball? Scott Sorensen, did he knock it on? Well, I mean, don't think anyone in the whole world thinks he knocked it on. But outside of that, outside of some tough calls, I think that this is a high-quality game of rugby league. And I think that the score kind of pretty much reflects where both teams are right now. What do you reckon, boys?
Yeah, I think I mentioned on Instagram the other day, I think Penrith, since losing that game, they've considered 14 points in 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is. So that's why they're still the benchmark. I thought, mate, the score was pretty reflective. I thought that Brisbane, they've obviously lost 2 games in a row now.
I think it's 3.
Three?
So our last 4 games, we've lost 3.
Lost 3, okay. But I think we said 3 weeks ago that it was going to be the next 2 weeks that would tell us a lot about the Broncos, and despite them losing those 2 games to Melbourne and Penrith, I feel like I've still learnt a lot about the Broncos that I had a question mark if they were sort of flat track bullies. I don't think they are. I think they've held in both of these games, especially without Adam Reynolds. So once again, 2 losses, but I take a lot of positives out of it for Brisbane.
Yeah, I do. I take it positive out both sides. Panthers do what Panthers do best. They stayed in the grind. They got the job done. They refused to, just kept him in a chokehold pretty much the whole game. And I loved how Cleary changed his game plan up mid-game. I think Cleary of yesteryear. I mean, last year he probably would have as well. Definitely the year before that. He would have just continued to just stick to his structures, and it wouldn't have worked. He just said, nah. You know what? We're getting no love on the edges here. I need to start running the ball. He had 27 runs for 200-plus metres.
Wow.
Yeah.
I miss that.
And people don't... Like, Cleary, it's a tall poppy syndrome. He's getting so good, so high. People aren't respecting that. Like, you're a 7 running for 200 metres, having 27 runs. You have made a choice to change the way you play.
And, also keep in mind, I agree with you, the scoreline did reflect it, but keep in mind Nathan Cleary had a try assist to Leota that was dropped over the line. He had a try assist to Mitch Kenny, who he also dropped with an open try line. So Nathan could have blown this game open a lot further than what he did.
Yeah. So he had 106 fantasy points, a try, 27 runs, 208 metres, 6 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks, 16 tackles, only 2 miss, and a field goal.
Yeah, you heard it. Yeah.
He said fantasy points.
Oh, shit.
How dare you?
I love how he brushed past it and you'll me. It's like, firstly, that was Kempy's first ever organic mention of fantasy sport on the podcast. Secondly, we're about Supercoach, mate. That's
It's like us wrapping it up.
Wow.
It's just disrespectful.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. I didn't know the battle lines had been drawn. I didn't understand.
It's very New South Wales v Queensland-esque. It's
wow.
toe to toe.
Well, boys, how many Supercoach points did he win? Because I don't want to go through all these different apps to find out.
125 Supercoach points, which is what matters.
Okay. 125 Supercoach points. The only reason why I won't say it anymore is because it's in the NRL app.
It's the Voldemort of fantasy sports.
I love how in the NRL app, and we talk about the battle lines, they've moved it to like that. Well, on the mobile app at least, it's the first column you see, fantasy points.
It is. Boom. Right there. So Cleary, I love that he changed the way he played mid-game, like identified it, and that's just evidence of a player year on, year out, just getting to know the way he plays, understanding and reading games. And I recall 2 or 3 years ago or last year, whenever it was, I think it was 2020 series, where Game 3, DCE, he gave Cleary a lesson in just managing a game and managing players out of it. And I think that Cleary really struggled to react to that. Whereas I think you take today's Cleary back to that Game 3, I actually think he makes the right adjustments and reacts better to it. And that's going to come with age.
And I agree with you. I think Cleary learned a lot from having his pants pulled down there, because he did. He got well and truly outplayed by a more matured halfback.
Yeah, and it wasn't through athleticism. It was purely through a game plan that just stopped them from doing what they wanted to do.
It was footy IQ.
Yeah, and DC, it's like, what, 34 now? 34, 35?
Yep.
And I just think that Cleary is just getting better and better and better now. Some people have said, I've seen some comments saying, like, Cleary, if New South Wales lose this series, he's under pressure. That just blows my mind. Blows my mind. He's currently at 61% win rate in Origin. Yes, if he loses this series, it'll go to 50%, but Cleary is the last year Warriors. Cleary right now is on track to equal Joey Johns for 5 series wins. There is a world, I know you all love that when I say that, there is a world that at 26 years old, Cleary could have equaled Joey Johns' Origin Series wins record.
There's going to be a 3-year span that's going to occur in the next few years, in my opinion, where all these people that want to give a shit to Nath are going to be sitting there going, well, we were completely wrong.
And people are the knock. The knock was always gets a step higher. So initially he wasn't even an NRL player, and he's just there because of his dad, and they blah blah blah. Then the next was, good footy side, but can't play in the big games. Then he wins a few comps. The next now knock on is we need him to dominate an Origin series. Now he's played good in games. He's 25 years old. Like, it takes time to dominate a series. Joey was 30 when he dominated one. Cam was about 28, Cam Munster, 28, 29 when he had his moment. Maybe 29. So he doesn't need to own this Origin that's coming up. He just needs to win it. But the owning of a series, it's coming. I will be shocked if we don't look back after 5 years' time and we go 2024 or 5, Cleary absolutely owned this series.
Yeah, and I think the most slept on thing with Nath Cleary is that, when you look back at the last 10, 12 years of rugby league, the guy that has gone from club to club and been successful everywhere he goes is James Maloney. And as soon as he leaves, clubs really struggle. They struggle to back up their performances. He left, and then Nathan Cleary took over this side as, what was he then, a 20, 21-year-old footballer, halfback? I mean, he's been to 3 grand finals in a row, won 2 premierships, come second in the Dally M's twice. We all want to ignore that, but that's fine. I mean, he's still got a win record in the State of Origin arena. When he actually does hit his peak, I had to say it as well, but he could be fucking anything.
He really could. Well, Wally Lewis, his win ratio is 61%. So he's currently at 61%. I know he's got a bigger, broader pool, Wally. Obviously, it's harder to be 61% over the 30-odd games, I think, that he played. Could you check that?
30-plus, yeah.
30-plus games. It's harder, but again, he is on track to do all the things that are great. No matter how far you kick the can down the road to say Cleary isn't this or that, he keeps on delivering. And every time you ask more of him, he gives it to you. But then you ask more of him, and he gives it to you. And it's just what more can this guy do before you go, this is one of the best sevens we've seen in a long time. Yeah,
and he is a guy that he's got the potential to be able to stack up 5 series in 6 or 7 years.
He's if they go back to back, he either beats or equals Joey Johns. What Joey had, 5 or 6? 6?
Think so, yeah.
So 6 series wins, he could do that in the next 2 to 3 years. Easy. There's no reason why he couldn't do that. Anyway, that's Origin talk. See, look, we just go straight back into the Origin talk.
Just to go back on that. So Wally Lewis was 61, and he's better than percentage-wise than Freddie, Joey, and Darren Lockyer.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because then there were some people we'll talk about Cam Smith or Thurston or Cronk. It's you can't use anomalies to prove a point. We're talking about what happened in Queensland in that period where we had literal immortals, at the very least Hall of Famers in every position. I'm talking fullback through to front row. That won't happen for at least another 100 years. It just won't.
Yeah, don't ever compare to that.
Yeah, it's just a freak. It's just a freak incident that all come together.
And I also think it's bizarre with these people that don't like Cleary. They always want to point out the Origins that he loses, but the ones that he wins, no credit to him.
Yeah.
No.
The record win?
Nothing.
The record win. 2021.
It's wild.
I must have my head in the sand. I didn't know there was still people out there questioning Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, there's some people that think that if he's lose, that his position should be under pressure.
Yeah, I don't want to waste oxygen on the people that think that, because seriously.
It's crazy.
Dropping Nathan Cleary.
He's won your series 2021, 76-6 in the first 2 games.
Had nothing to do with the halfback.
Yeah, of course.
No.
Cleary was injured in game 3 and we lost.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, there you bloody
Coincidence.
go. There you bloody go. Okay, now let's talk about Penrith's backs. Taruva and Luai. Taruva and To'o both ran for over 200 metres. Both ran for 20 plus metres. Taruva 213, 66 post contact. To'o 264, 84 post contact. Both had 4 tackle breaks. That is unbelievable.
It is, but it's equally just this is who they are.
Taruva he doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah. I know we've spoken about this before, but I don't think it's been brought up yet this year. We definitely spoke about it last year, but I know this is a special group of players and particularly a special group of outside backs, and the entire squad allows them to do it, but this has just got to be the blueprint going forward, doesn't it, for recruitment at other clubs? And like I think we've even seen probably Newcastle, who were terrible last year and they weren't great in the weekend, obviously, but they've turned a bit of a corner this year in just your yardage and your big back five and eating meats and all running for 150, 200 plus comfortably each game, and just give your forwards a breather so that when it gets to the D, they're launching off the line. And we speak out every week with Penrith. It's just got to become the blueprint of recruitment, doesn't it?
And you say, your big back five. This is Tyrone Peachy that's been thrown in there. Yeah. I don't care what size you are. You've got to run. You've got to have 20 runs of the football.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to be. Well, Taruva, he's not big, but he's running for 200 metres a game.
It's just a flick of that mindset of your outside back. So this is part of your job now.
Yeah. We'll be a little bit quicker in the reviews, guys, because obviously we've spent so much time on Origin. Just quickly on the Broncos, I want to talk about Herbie Farnworth. He is seriously making me eat my words every week. 247 metres, 28 runs, 72 post contacts, 7 tackle breaks, a line break, 13 tackles, only 1 miss, no errors. He is something special. He really is something
this
special.
week, probably.
Yes, I'd say what was with Selwyn. Yeah.
Interesting to watch.
It'll be real interesting because, Hamiso is there out and out fullback at the Dolphins, but it will be interesting to see does he suit the role? Because then there's an argument where if he goes to Dolphins, does well, he'll obviously be playing centre, but then he may prove over the Origin period that, hang on a sec, I actually should be on fullback money, and there could be another club in the next, in 3 years that say, okay, we want you as our fullback.
Poor old Bronx this week, going to New Zealand to take on a near full-strength Warriors side. Warriors coming off the bye, coming off a game against Penrith with 4 or 5 blokes out.
We're battlers, mate. It's Queenslanders, just a small Brisbane club, doing our best, pulling the pennies together we can barely pay for bloody training kit, mate. But Herbie Farnworth is also cursed by the fact that he's, not cursed, it's the wrong word, but he can't play for New South Wales or Queensland. So he never can hit the hype levels of someone in contention for Origin. If he was in contention for Origin this year, if he was a Queenslander, he probably would get selected, and you put Hamiso on the wing.
Yeah. Yep.
And imagine the hype around him then. And so it's just that it's obviously not a curse that he's an Englishman, but it's in regards to rugby league sense. In regards to rugby, he's never, it's like a lot of the Kiwis have to deal with it, some of the Samoa and Tongan, they never get the same amount of hype as the Aussie boys do in regards to Origin and that, because they never get allowed to put in that Origin arena.
It elevates you. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. If you're not playing Origin, you've got to be winning a lot of comps.
Imagine if Fisher Harris was playing Origin.
100%.
The only player that's really, well, not the only, some of the only players are like your Burgess, your Taumalolo that have managed to, and Sonny Bill, that have managed to shoot through that, but they're like all-time greats.
AFB is a classic example. We spoke about him last week.
Yeah. Fisher Harris in Origin, holy.
Circling back just quickly, I want to bring up to Penrith before we move on. Critter, who Stephen Crichton, who I've been pretty critical of at times over the last particularly 18 months defensively, the last month or so,
outstanding.
He's been so good, and like just things that we said that he goes for a lot of interceptions. He needs to take a step back and worry about making the tackle rather than going for the big plays. He's done that, but his aggression in defence has been so good. He's whacking blokes, getting off his line. Just worth noting because he's turned a corner there.
Just on the Pans before we do move on, another thing to note, Sonny Luke was sent back to New South Wales Cup, played 70 minutes for them. Looks like you'll probably see Mitch Kenny fill into that 13 role whilst Ayo's out. So Sonny Luke, we might finally get to see him play some. They've got the bye this week, Penrith. I would assume he'll play Cup again to get minutes into his legs.
What an opportunity. And back on the Broncos, just a shout out to the boy, Paddy Carrigan. 19 runs, 181 metres, 60 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, 3 offloads, 67 tackles. 67 tackles in 180 metres. You are kidding, sir, in 80 minutes. Unbelievable stuff. What a knock.
Last guy at the Broncos I want to mention, stats weren't incredible, but next to Katoni Staggs named 19 runs. That's what we want to see.
Absolutely.
Big games will come.
Now on to the next game. Dragons. I feel like we're speaking on fast forward now. You know what I mean? We know, like, that was still a good solid 10 to 12 minutes and we anyway. Sorry guys, we are human. We've got lives to get to. Dragons defeat the Roosters 24-22 in one of the all-time endings. we'll talk about it from the Dragons' perspective first. What an incredible response to the fact that Anthony Griffin got let go. The boys are still united. I love the fact that the new coach didn't waste a second. He said, Little in 9, Sullivan at 14, Hunt at 7, and basically Lomax comes back into the side. Didn't miss a heartbeat. And they come out, and to be honest, they probably bombed a couple tries in the first half as well. So it was a game that was there for them to win. Obviously, the Roosters were very gallant in their comeback in the second half. But I've got to say, I feel like the better team won in the Dragons.
Yeah, I definitely think the better team won, and obviously it was good to see them get the win in the fashion they did, but God, they made it hard on themselves. Didn't have to be that way. Really I thought that they were the better side throughout, and I also thought that, without kicking him whilst he's down, I don't know how Victor Radley stayed on the field after that, so I think they were unlucky there in that moment as well.
Yeah, look, we've spoken about Radley quite a bit. We've spoken about the reffing. I feel like it's every single week. But that was seriously one of the worst calls I've seen in a very long time. And what's bizarre, I said the same thing last week. So what else is there to say around it? Like, he headbutted a dude. I don't know what to say.
Hard to sugarcoat.
Yeah, like we could go back over all the stuff we've already said and say he needs to get rid of that. He's got so much potential, and we could go all through that. I think it's pretty clear what needs to happen. It's just a matter of executing.
I mean, he headbutted someone after choke slamming the guy in front of him.
Yeah.
Like, it was a big 30 seconds.
Over a tackle where he just tackled him hard. Didn't even head slam him. His head didn't even hit the ground. We are reffing purely. Oh, Guru, you've got me in the mode now. You've got me into it. You've dragged me in. We are reffing only on optics. If something looks bad, we are giving penalties. It never used to be like that. We used to have some sense of, might look bad, but let's see whether it was actually a penalty. Same thing happened with the Jared Croker situation. Ola Kawatu hits him across the chest. Looks dramatic. Get a penalty. Doesn't get charged for it. Then the Hudson Young gets sent 10 in the bin for literally a tiny little shoulder. Like, who cares? A little push and shove. It does not matter. It's all about optics. And it kills me. Yeah.
Victor Radley mad at people for tackling people hard might be the richest thing I've ever seen, by the way. And folding people for a career.
Look, as the team enforcer or whatever, it's his job to stick up for his teammate when he feels like it's been, he's been hit hard or whatever, but... Yeah, I just want the best for Radley. He's such an incredible player. He's such a good character for rugby league. But it's way past time. It's way past time.
Yeah, I'm all for him being the enforcer in this team 100%, but he's got to adapt the way he does it.
Well, I mean, we look at Hudson Young. Hudson Young has managed to find a way to keep within the lines. He still niggles. He still gets amongst it. But he's managed to... And we're talking about a guy that was like weeks and weeks for eye gouging, not just like some of the little stuff Bradley's done, like a little head high here or, a little brain snap here. Like, we're talking about big brain snaps. Anyway, so the Radley stuff, yeah. Back to the Dragons. Ben Hunt, outstanding. I thought it was really good to see Sloane make that match-winning kick, even though I thought he was a little bit, well, not a little bit, he was quite quiet until that moment. He's just got to find a way, Sloane, to say to himself, I'm going to take 20 runs every game.
Saw a stat from Random Stats Guy during the week, and it was he has recorded the 4 lowest metres by a fullback in 2023. So the top 4 games, they were 35 metres, 70, 70, 79. Now I believe Latrell ran for 61 metres on the weekend, so he's jumped into there, but like...
Trell is very different.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
And you're right, mate. We speak about Sloane a lot, and spot on. And it was great to see him come with the match-winning kick for. Like, that was such a great win for the Dragons.
Incredible.
Like, after everything they've been through this season and the coaching sagas and a new young Ryan Carr comes in, to win in that fashion against the Roosters was so exciting for them. But like, just while you have mentioned Sloane, he needs to up his input, mate, because even the tackle on Luke Keary when he went through as well and just slipped straight off him, it's got to be a higher standard than that.
Well, it's just about getting yourself in the game. Yeah. If you take a lot of carries early on, you stop thinking and you're just in it. Whereas when you take a while to get into the game, you're constantly, your head's just all over the shop. You're thinking about everything.
And with Sloane, because he's got the thing that very few players to his level of the NRL have, and that is just electric speed. When he gets himself in and around the ruck, these opportunities will present. It'll be a loose arm, an offload, a loose ball on the ground, a deflection off a kick. And when that happens, he scoops the ball up. He's too quick, and like the big moments will come. But to do that, you have to get yourself in and around the ball time and time again.
Yeah. If he can just almost just set aside the big plays, because he's so talented, they'll come. They'll come, as you said. Just purely focus on 20 runs a game. That's it. That's the only stat. If I'm his coach, that's what I'd be saying to him. I don't care about tries. I don't care about try assists. Because you know why I would say that to him as a coach? I know how good he is. They're going to come.
Yeah.
My only stat would be, how many times did you run and touch the ball? What are your support play numbers? All of that kind of stuff. It feels a bit harsh because he had that moment where he took that kick and they scored. But it was just something that I kind of noticed. But what an incredible try. And just to put that ball just too far, I guess, for, was it Alan or Paulo? Paulo? I think it's Paulo. Over his head where he couldn't just run like that and catch it. And what about the pickup from Fainai as well? Was it Fainai that scored it? Yeah. Just amazing stuff.
How good did... I thought Sully and Lomax back on their regular edges.
So much better.
So much more comfortable.
So much better.
Both really... Sully had a great game.
Sully had a great game. Lomax ran for over 103 metres. Didn't have a bunch of errors. I never understood. I didn't really get the Lomax that much in regards. I didn't think he was playing that poorly to be dropped. But I want to give a shout out to Jaden Sewer. He was phenomenal. Talk about just taking it to a feared, in quotation marks, pack. He was in everything, Jaden Sewer.
He had a good game, Jaden Sewer. I thought, obviously, they lost Blake Laurie in this one too. It looks like he's going to miss, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. I think it was. Fractured hand, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jack DeBellin had to play the full 80 minutes. I think that Blake Laurie has been tremendous this year for the St George Illawarra Dragons. I think they will miss him over the next few weeks.
Yeah, Jack DeBellin's been outstanding as well. He's been really, really good this year. But what an important win for the club. Yep. Just with all the noise, all the negativity, they did the one thing you can do, and that is go out and play good footy till the dying moments. And get in the week that was for it to end like that, it doesn't get much better.
Despite maybe disregarding the biggest avid Dragons hater on the planet, how could there be someone out there not happy to have seen that game finish the way it did?
Yeah. Totally agree. Such a good win for the club. And it shows you that there's still some fight there. The turnaround can happen much quicker than some people may think. It really can, because you got Benny Hunt obviously in prime form, but when you start looking at this side and you look at, okay, well, Sully's relatively young. Lomax is young. Fino is young. Ravalawa isn't, old by any stretch. Sloan is young. Amon is young. Sullivan is young. You go, okay, that's actually a really young, a lot of young base 17, first 17, that you can make 1 or 2 savvy recruits around them, and all of a sudden they're fighting in the 8. And that's the positive thing that you can get from a win like this.
Shout out to the coach too, Ryan Carr, obviously his first win as coach in his first game. He's had a pretty tough trot when you look back at his career in the NRL. Did you play with him at Dragons at all? Did you? No, different time. Yeah. So I think Matty, he signed with South Sydney in 2012. I think it was when Chris Sando left South Sydney as a halfback. So it was going to be him or Adam Reynolds. And I think as the story goes, he got injured in the preseason, and the rest is history with Adam Reynolds. So,
oh wow!
Yeah,
right out. Yeah, what a great to start your first coaching gig off with that game.
Yeah.
Wow, something you'll remember forever. Now, onto the Roosters. There are troubles at the Roosters. There are troubles at the Roosters. They don't look anywhere near the side that they should be. It's, look at a guy like Billy Smith, and I'm not singling him out as saying he's the reason, but 2 weeks ago he was outstanding. And then he comes out this week, and unfortunately it was one of his not good games. Had quite a few errors, 4 errors. The big
tried
fella
hard,
tried his heart out, but 4 errors. And it feels unfair to be talking about him because they got so many senior players that just do not seem to be, I guess, executing on what they should be executing on. I think there's going to be pressure is building, and it sounds like an obvious thing to say. It sounds like, oh, of course pressure is building there, whatever on the trot. But I think that the Roosters have always been ruthless. And first it was it seemed like an external pressure. External, the media. But it does seem like that is seeping internally, and we could see some changes soon because it's just not right now, and it hasn't for a few years. It's just not working.
Yeah, it's just not working at the moment. They're currently sitting in 11th place. Origin's just arrived. They're going to farewell Teddy, Lindsay Collins, a couple of really, really key guys there. So
Brandon Smith's out for 8 weeks.
It's only going to get harder.
Yeah. Timmy?
The first half from the Roosters, I could not believe what I was seeing from that club. It was could have been the worst half of football I've ever seen that club play. Sure, they were missing a handful of key players, but there's still enough talent on that field. They just dished up tripe in the first half. That 4 second half tries, got themselves back into it, almost clinched it. We've sort of, because they've been so underwhelming this season, particularly the last month or so, we've sort of taken a few pot shots here and there, but the question's got to be asked around Trent Robinson, because I just feel like there's players, his selections have been really bewildering at times this season. Well, there can't be anyone out there who thinks Suli is better at centre than he is on the wing, can he? Can there?
Surely not.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
And I understand trying it early on in the season, but from pretty early on, I think it was clear that he was so much more effective on the wing, and a few other things. So they'll get Joey Manu back post bye. Maybe the freshen up will do them a world of good, but whether Joey slots in at 5'8", which I still don't think is the answer. I hope he does, and I hope he does come back at centre and they put Suoliti to the wing. But Robbo, it's been a few years since he's had any success, a lot of injuries, but also something I'd chat about at length this season was Joey Manu stunning James Tedesco. Well, Joey Manu's out, and you see James Tedesco have an absolute bell ringer.
Yeah. He single-handedly was lifting him back into the game.
Because he became the focal point in attack, so Teddy was back to what we know Teddy can do.
Yeah. I don't know how they fix it. I really don't know how they fix it, because you put Drew in at 7, and that hasn't... it's one game, obviously. And then you got Sam Walker in reserve. Oh, Sam Walker's injured now. And, he was initially... It was not that they were saying he's a problem, but for him to get dropped, they've got to say that he's going to be a part of it at least.
Well, one thing that, again, we've touched on is I'm really intrigued to see now with Cheese gone, Turpin will step in, probably play big minutes at hooker. Talk about too many chefs in the kitchen and just simplifying things a little bit. Turpin is that man. He's that Sam Verrills type where he'll go in, he'll make his tackles, he'll provide good service, and just... the show won't be about him at dummy half. It's not a knock on Cheese at all. We know how good a footballer he is, but whether or not he was the right fit for the Roosters, I'm not sure. But Turpin there, I think it could have a positive impact.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, Brandon Smith did his best work when he had rotating with someone else in that spot, rotating with another hooker, giving him, I guess, the space in his game to be a bit ad-lib and, front foot footy. He's a great hooker. But I think we all knew that he's not the 80-minute steady hooker. He's the bash him through the middle, incredible, when you get into your red zone, near the line. Another bloke that I thought had a pretty poor game. He did some good things, but Sitili Tupouniua still doesn't seem to have clicked for him. I know he's been out for quite a while, so it seems pretty harsh. But again, these selections, you got Angus Crichton coming off the bench.
And Nat Butcher.
Gun
edge players. And they've got Egan, who we keep saying to middle, and Tupouniua stayed on the edges. And you're right with Tupouniua, who he'll come good, but look, he's come back from there was an ACL injury really slowly. Aren't Angus Crichton and Nat Butcher your starting edges?
You'd think initially, until Sitili is good to go.
Until Sitili's good.
Yeah.
No, I said it a few weeks ago. I still think at the end, last year, I think that injury to Tupouniua saved him from getting replaced by Butcher. I thought Butcher was outplaying him last year, and then the injury happened and it forced the hand. So I found it very strange that Egan came straight back in on that edge. I found that bizarre. And I, you know what? I think Trent Robinson's looked at his side and go, we need some momentum through the middle. Play Brandon Smith through the middle. You got the best momentum guy in rugby league, who's a very good hooker, don't get me wrong, but he's a better momentum guy through the middle.
He would if you go Brandon 20 minutes at hooker or whatever, and then you put him in that 13 role and just go, or at the front row even, and just go, mate, we need momentum.
You don't even make him a lock or a prop. You just middle forward. Get us momentum. Just go forward. That's what you are the best at.
Yeah. Really, really concerning for the Roosters. I don't know where they go from here. I don't, because let's say they got a full strength side. You could argue it's a bigger headache.
It's definitely a bigger headache.
Because they got such good players. Like, these are guns. 1 to 17, full strength. They are all incredible players. And Trent Robinson is an incredible coach. We're talking back-to-back premierships, 3 premierships, minor premierships. He's done everything.
Cheese in 28 minutes, 0 runs.
Yeah. Maybe he went into the game with the injury rather than... Anyway, so hopefully
I
they
thought
can
looked
turn
good.
around.
Nathan Brown, in the minutes he played. And what are they going to do in a few weeks' time when Victor Radley's back available and then Cheese is there as well? There's too many good pieces to fit.
We're at Hargreaves to come back in.
Yeah, I hope they can turn it around. I really do, because, geez, it'd be a waste to see such superstars not have a massive dent on the competition in this window that they have.
Well, it's going to be interesting the next few weeks. They're going to be without Rads, who's going to miss... Is it 3 games Radley's missing for? So he'll miss the game against Canterbury, Penrith and the Newcastle Knights. I don't know what's going on with JWH, but Brandon Smith will also miss those games. The Origin players will miss 2 out of those 3 games. The Roosters are 11th right now. They play Canterbury Bulldogs in 2 weeks. They play the Panthers. I think that'll be without Origin guys, and they're going to have to back up to go to Newcastle to play Newey up there.
They'll have the Origin guys for 15.
They'll have them for 15, so they'll miss... Yeah, okay. But like round 14, they're going to have to force their guys on a 4-day turnaround to play against Canterbury. I don't think they have a choice.
Teddy, who a month ago when they were sitting that sort of 4 to 6 area, would have gone, we can probably give Teddy a rest. And now it's like, we probably need you to play.
Yeah. Hope they can turn it around. I think if this year continues on this, I guess, trajectory, we could see some quite big changes at the Roosters. I really do.
We have a look at the back end of their season too, just quickly. After their bye in round 19, they've got the Melbourne Storm, they've got the Broncos, they've got the Manly Seagulls, who might be back in form, they've got the Dolphins, who won't roll over, Parramatta, and they finish with South Sydney. Like, it's a tough run home too. They've got some good teams in the last 6 weeks.
Oh, man. I think I had Sydney Roosters as my favourite to win the comp at the start of this year. And I was excited to see this just crazy team put together. Like, it just doesn't get much better. It doesn't, and they have had to deal with injury. There's no denying that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend they've been full strength the whole time, but yeah, it just does not seem to be clicking. Now on to before we get to the Rabbitohs Eels. Shoutouts to Source. Saturday, 27th of May, Bloke Beer will be debuting at the Central Hotel Shell Harbour from 5 p.m. until they are out of cans. They will be doing $4 middies and $5 lager. That's right. Saturday, 27th of May, Bloke Beer will be debuting at Central Hotel in Shell Harbour. And as I said, $4 middies and $5 lagers. What a deal. Porter's Narrabeen, great bottle shop on the Northern Beaches. Celebrations Jamoyne. Manager Rob is selling Bloke Lager and Bloke Midi for crazy prices. Hastings Hotel Bottle Shop, great pub and bottle shop up the North Coast. Manager Luke has just got the Midi in after some locals asked for it and is selling the Midi for a great introductory price. That's Hastings Hotel, now stocks Bloke Midi, the hype Bloke Midi. Trust me, give her a try. Everyone's loving it. Celebrations Katara. Big Celebration Superstore in Newcastle, selling Bloke Lager for $55 a case and Bloke Midi for $50 a case. Get in there. Get in there. Now, the Rabbitohs lose to the Parramatta Eels 36-12. What an Eels performance. They do this all the time. I don't understand. What is going on? Dylan Brown was absolutely electric. Moses was fantastic. Paulo was fantastic. I guess they're back. I don't know. This is the same thing. It's not the same thing. They were further behind last year, but this is the grand final side that was killing it last year.
Yeah, it's a win that hopefully they can build off. I don't feel confident in saying they're back.
That's what I mean. I don't know. They beat the Rabbitohs and they beat Penrith. It is bizarre.
Yeah, they're consistently inconsistent. Hopefully they can turn that around. But I thought the halves were fantastic. I thought Bryce Cartwright was great in this game.
Hasn't he turned around his career?
It's been so impressive what Bryce has managed to do. I think a lot of people were tipping him to never turn it around.
Mate, I thought he was done 5 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
5 years ago.
The manner in which he's done it, it's like...
Under the radar, just getting through it.
Getting through the hard yards. He he's willing to roll up his sleeves, pin his ears, and take hard carries. A bloke who, even at his best, made a career out of hop, skip, stepping across the field and pulling offloads out of his arse and doing these big attacking plays for back rower. That's not his game at all anymore. You still see glimpses of it and you're like, oh, he's a crafty bastard. But he's just like doing the tough stuff.
If you had never seen Bryce until the last 6-8 weeks and told you what he used to be, you'd never believe it.
You would not believe it. No. You're totally right. You'd be going, nah, don't. He almost looks like a battler edge back rower now. It's like battler Bryce Cartwright doesn't even. He's the flary guy. He's the offload out the back, the cutout pass. It's so impressive. So happy for him. So happy for him.
He's had such a good season, and then you tie into how good a win this was from Para. They lost Andrew Davey, who the starting edge back rower, played about 4 minutes to a concussion. They lose Ryan Madison after about 35 minutes to a calf injury. And Cardi's on there, in or out, whether he's an 80-minute edge back rower or off the bench as an impact man, comes in, just does his job. Been wonderful.
Another shout out, Whittamoo Greg. Oh, hasn't he been good in the replacement of RCG or when Paulo's been out? Whittamoo Greg, again, we've spoken about this, but he kind of came onto the scene and you're going, wow, look at this big mobile, almost like Fafita to a degree. And it's taken him a little bit longer than I think a lot of people expected, but geez, he's stepped up. Far out, he was good.
It looks likely that Joe O will join Parramatta by the looks of it. Rumours are out last week. He was pretty emotional after their game the other day. Whittamoo Greg was well and truly aware of that on the weekend. I thought it was fantastic.
50 minutes, 19 runs, 201 metres, 87 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, 21 tackles, only 1 miss. Like, fair knock for a rookie. I know he's a little bit older, but a rookie front rower. I mean, look, you've got to give Brad Arthur credit for what he lacks in regards to the consistency in season. He does seem to be developing players really well and getting the best out of them. Like, who would have thought it would be Brad Arthur that could pull this out of Bryce Cartwright? Papali'i came to the club, pulled that out of him.
Sean Lane.
Dylan Brown has gone to another level. Mitchell Moses has gone to another level. I understand people's criticism of some of the things that Brad Arthur does, but he doesn't get enough appreciation for the way he's turned solid first graders into some superstars. He just doesn't get the credit.
They're obviously not the best halves combination in the NRL by a long shot, Brown and Moses, but when they are on, they could be. And they were on against the Bunnies. Mitchy Moses, had spiders on him. He was just toying with him, could not tackle him, jumped across the field. Him and Dill Brown, how's Dill Brown against a tiring defensive lineup? The size of the gaps in the defensive line he manages to get himself through.
Craziness.
I'm still trying to work out how he does it because he makes it look so easy in impossible scenarios.
Yeah. He just, his footwork, his pace, he is so quick for a half. Him and Mitchell Moses. But, man, I reckon Dill Brown would be up there with some of the quickest in the comp. He is quick.
Yep. No shock to anyone. Dill Brown, 23 tackles, 0 missed. As per.
What is he, 22, 23 now? Just the career trajectory he can go on. Kiwi fans get excited because I still don't even think we're at his top yet. I really think he's got more to give. So, what an incredible win by the Para Eels. Now it's just about kicking the gear, guys, because if you keep going 1 win, couple losses, 1 win, couple losses, you just won't be there finals time. What a frustrating team to jag in finals, though. Let's say they come 8th.
Yeah.
You'd be like, far out, not the Eels. These guys just pull these wins out of nowhere. They'd almost be the most frustrating team to play because they can beat the best teams, but you just don't know.
You don't know what to expect. You don't know yet. No idea. While we're on the Parramatta halves, obviously, joining the Manly Seagulls this week, Jake Arthur, one that sort of flew under the radar there. So hopefully a fresh start with Jake.
Yeah, I forgot to say when it happened, but when I found out that Para own fans after, was it the Raiders game, were giving it to Jacob Arthur, that's disgraceful, man. Look, you can say whatever you want personally. If you want to bag a player while you're watching the TV, that's your right. You can do that. Sometimes we get caught up in the emotion and we talk nonsense or whatever. But to do it to the kid's face means that you have done it so much, so often around other people that you are comfortable to do it in his face. God. That's a human being, bro. It's a human being. Let's say I'm critical of a player on this podcast. I would say to their face, I said, look, I think you've done this and this. but I wouldn't bag them to their face. Like I don't understand this need to make him feel like shit as if he is the problem at the Eels. Like, he is so far away from the problem. He's not even in their main 17. Anyway, I understand it's because he's the son of the coach there, but that was so sad. And then for him to be like, oh, do you really want my signature? Like, come on, man. Like, he's an NRL player. He's an NRL player. And if a kid wants his signature, he should be at least confident enough to go, oh, yeah, sweet. But because he's been so peppered by people, his own fans, he doesn't have the confidence. So we are critical of players all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. But bagging people and making them feel like shit, what's the point? It's just... Anyway, so I hope that this is the fresh start that he deserves, because he's been fucking... absolutely killed by the fans.
Should do him absolute wonders.
Hope so.
We wish him the best of luck over at Manly, and funnily enough, he could be starting halfback for them this week because they've got obviously DC to Origin. Cooper Johns is under an injury cloud. I don't know where he's at, but I think the NRL side had him listed as a potentially around a 15 return or still a couple of weeks away. So if he's not, he's going to slot in next to Schuster.
And I hope he kills it.
Yeah.
I hope he kills it, and I hope the Manly fans welcome him with open arms, and he gets to experience the positives of all the hard work he's done. Yeah, look, you don't have to think he's the best half ever, but are you telling me that he's not close to NRL standard? Like, he's at least close to it. So it's not like he's just there because of, you know what I mean? Like, he's earned his way there. Anyway, I just thought, I'd say that. So hopefully he goes there, fresh start, kills it, because I would love to see Jacob Arthur just enjoying his footy. And look, there's games that he's won for the Eels. Literally games where he's had the match-winning play for the Eels. Anyway, onto the Rabbitohs. Look, lacklustre, quite surprising considering Indigenous round, and we know how proud Indigenous are. I mean, all clubs are proud Indigenous, but I do feel like Rabbitohs have a very special connection, and with so many key Indigenous players as well. But this is the NRL. You're going to get down sometimes. I think we've been a bit spoilt by the Penrith Panthers and the Storm to a degree. This is a nothing for me in regards to Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I'm keen to see how they respond to it, though. Because, obviously the South Sydney Rabbitohs, they're high and flying. Finals are still 15 odd weeks away. You probably can't stay at the very top for that entire time. So at the moment, I agree with you, mate. Not an issue for me at all. But, if they put together a couple of weeks of this, be a little bit disappointing. But, we'll throw it over to South Sydney and see how they respond to it.
Timmy?
Yeah, look, you're both spot on there, boys. Whether you've lost, you can't be up every single week. Whether you've won 4 on the trot, 5 on the trot, it doesn't matter. You're going to have a down week. It happens. So you can still be the best club in the NRL, like the Raiders and Bunnies are, and it's still probably going to be the grand final.
We've got a grand final preview this weekend.
We do. What a blockbuster. No, I'm with you, boys. In all honesty, though, you can't get up every single week.
No.
Para were wonderful. I loved the Indigenous boys who, as you said, they generally do get up for this round. 2 sublime tries of just Cody, Trell and AJ combining, and just to see how stoked they were and the celebration at the end of it. They were some special moments in this game despite the loss.
I tell you what, the jerseys this week, just purely from an aesthetic perspective of just being a white Aussie, like the Broncos jersey was so good. I can't even explain it. I think I thought the Storm jersey was really good. Most of the jerseys were hectic. So I love Indigenous round and the welcome to country at the start. I think Indigenous round is such it's a jewel in our game. It really is. And I think that each year we should step more into it because, as you said, to see a Latrell, Cody, and Johnston connect like that, you just go, far out. So good.
It's unreal to see some of the former Indigenous players involved.
Seeing Preston
Stevie
Campbell.
Renouf, Preston Campbell, Cliffy Lyons, it was great.
It's so 100%. They're so important to the fabric of the game, especially if you've ever been in a rugby league locker room. They're just so important to it. So I was, as I said, a bit surprised that I thought as a team for 80 minutes that they would show up a little bit more, but fatigue's going to set in eventually. They've been playing at such a high level, beating some of the tippity-top teams, that you're going to get games like this. I will just quick shout out Jai Arrow. I thought he was phenomenal. Come on. He ended up playing 72 minutes, but he had 16 runs, 159 metres, 86 post-contact, 3 tackle breaks, 38 tackles, 0 misses. Like, what a knock. Anyone else in the Rabbitohs you want to talk about?
It covers it for me.
I thought some of Cody Walker's touches early on were really good. The game got away from him a little bit. Look, when you complete at 70%, it's very hard to, some teams can do it, but you've got one team that's flying high, and you could say every game there's a reason to rock up and be the best and win, whatever. But you always have to remember, like, Eels, if they lost this game, like, this season could be literally over. And I know that sounds dramatic, but they would have dropped to what, 16th?
I don't think it's overly dramatic. No, that's the position that they're in at the moment.
It's like, that's how desperate these guys were.
They had a win on the weekend, now they're 13th.
Had big win.
Yeah, so like it's an understandable, I guess, outcome. Even though it's not perfect, it's understandable.
We spoke about it last week too, but just on Parramatta really quickly, they've got the 5th best for and against in the competition. They're at 13th, plus 44.
Jeez Louise, those early games, they lost it, they were leading. The more I analyse rugby league, the more we do this podcast, the more I realise those first 10 rounds are just like... I remember we spoke a bit about it to Smithy, to Ken Smith, and it's the reason why the Storm put such an emphasis on round 1 is to just pick up those points, because you just never know what's going to happen in the season. You just never know. So if you can get those early wins out of the way, like look at the Dolphins. Look at the position the Dolphins are sitting in because they went on a run early in the season.
And then the master stroke of bellyache to get them ready to go for round 1 and be rock hard fit to pick up those points early in the season without burning the squad out across a whole entire season.
It's incredible
campaign.
You know what, if this team would have started well, Parramatta, like if they were in the top 8 now, they're one of the few teams that hasn't had a bye yet. They've got 3 byes to come still. Yeah. And they've got a bye in round 27. So it would have been a spell just before finals.
Yeah. Like look at the Storm. The Storm, if you read the headlines, didn't watch the games, you'd say not disastrous year, but you'd say really lackluster year. They're 5th.
Crazy year.
They're literally on the same points as the Broncos. And yet the Broncos are headline, incredible, wow, premierships, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, they're equal first. They're all the top 5 teams are on 16 points.
Yeah, well, exactly, there you go, boom. And so, like, Sharkies have had hype, Rabbitohs have had hype, Panthers have had hype, Broncos have had hype. Storm have been almost considered, like, pretty lackluster year, and I'm concerned about them. But they pick up these wins that they... And I think that's what separates Storm from nearly every club over the long period, like the last whatever period, is because those little games that other teams just go, oh, you know what, we'll drop it. They don't do that. Yeah. They just refuse to.
It's pretty tough on Parramatta. Like, you have a look at the teams that... Like, there's a handful of teams that are having their second bye this weekend before Parramatta have their first.
This draw is strange. It doesn't seem fair or even because I kind of feel like, is it fair to get all your buys at the start of the year and then none at the end of the year? No. Is it fair to get no buys and then all of them at the end of the year? No. The only fair way is an even dispersal throughout the year. Yeah. Like the teams that get like one at the start, one in the middle, one at the end, that's the best setup. So
there's 4 teams that are playing this weekend that haven't had a bye yet. And a lot of the teams with a bye are having their second bye. So it makes no sense.
Yeah, very strange. Look, I mean, to be fair, it would be a nightmare to put this all together. Like to put all the draw and everyone lining up. So, I get cut the NRL some slack. Anyway, let's get on to the next game. Anything else to add to that game, boys?
No.
Now, how crazy is it? What is it? 1 to 6 are on the same points.
Inside.
1 to 5, sorry. It's the closest. It's the closest season at round 12 or whatever in 90 years.
Wow.
90 years. Rugby league's never been in a better spot. Yeah. Most viewed sport in the country, and that doesn't even include Origin. And then obviously the tightest comp we've seen in a very long time. Now, on to the next game. Store shout-outs before that, though. Arundel Tavern, great big floor stack in the Celebration Superstore. Raceview Tavern, fantastic long-time supporter from Star Liquor Group in Ipswich. Raceview Tavern, they were on before. So, OOGs, remember, Bloke beer started literally just by myself 5-6 years ago. Oh, man, talk about being naive. Jeez Louise, what a dumb decision that was. But Raceview Tavern were around all the way back then. So make sure to support Raceview Tavern because they've supported us. Fantastic long-time supporter from the Star Liquor Group in Ipswich. Colmsley Hotel, say good day to Walshy. And that's not... Oh, it might be Reece Walsh. You might meet Reece Walsh if you go into Colmsley Hotel when grabbing a case next of Bloke at the Maguire's Liquor Legends Barn. Currumbin Creek Tavern, best place to get Bloke beer on the bottom of the Goldie. Currumbin, that's where my granddad's from. Currumbin, so go down there, say, do you know Kempy's granddad? So they can vaguely look at you and go, what the fuck are you talking about? There's like funny things where you meet someone that you don't know, like at work or whatever, and they'll just like say a random name from your area. So, I'm from Mudgeeraba. Oh, do you know Dave from Mudgeeraba? And you're like, no, I don't know Dave from Mudgeeraba.
Oh, you mean the Dave?
Yeah, the one Dave? Yeah, okay. Now, on to Dicey's Liquor Barn. Go say hi to Jane. I said Jane like Jermaine. Jermaine Hopgood. Mate, you put an apostrophe in your name, you got to add a bit of zhuzh to it. Because otherwise you would have just done a Jermaine. No, I'm joking. Jane at Gladstone.
Sure.
Best bloke venue. That's the new rule, Guru. Jeez Louise, get with the program, mate. Bottlemar, Bracken Ridge, go in and see Jaeger. Jeez. J-A-G-R. He will look after you. X-Golf, Inagra. What a name, Jaeger. That's a strong name. Like Jaeger bombs, we all remember them, don't we?
Great schnitzel.
Do you reckon you ever said to a lady, I'll Jaeger bomb your heart?
This is by so far the best store shout-outs you've ever done.
Oh, I'm going delirious. Bottom up, Bracken Ridge, X-Golf, Inagra, Drink, Bloke, Play Golf, Redcliffe Leagues Club, home of the Dolphins. How good's that? Home of the Dolphins, stock Bloke beer. And we also saw Dwayne Bennett in a Bloke jersey. Give us a shout-out. Thanks, Dwayne Bennett. Redcliffe Leagues Club, Broncos Leagues Club, head to Alfie's Bar. That's where it will be. Jeez, that's bizarre.
I love that you're in Broncos Leagues Club.
That is so bizarre.
That's cool.
Like that I would have a beer in the Leagues Club. That's crazy.
If I had a beer in a club, I'd want it to be in that Leagues Club too.
Normanby Hotel, now stocking Bloke. Many good times. Yeah, look, you might get some discounts because my soul is still at the Normanby Hotel. Sharks defeat the Knights 26-6. In the end, dominant win from the Sharkies. I do feel like if you just looked at the score, the Knights were in it for a period there. They did fight, but Knights just too classy in the end. And Nico Hines, it was the Nico Hines show, but it was also the Connor Tracy show. He had one error, but outside of that, outstanding.
Yeah, he's arguably the best player not playing first grade regularly. He's incredible, Connor Tracy. He can obviously, he can jump into the centres, out in the wing. He can get the better of just about anyone he comes up against on any given day. And I think people also forget that coming through South Sydney, like he was a really, really talented halfback, 5'8", very good. I think he had 3 ACLs in 4 years or something outrageous that really crippled him. So for him to even be playing first grade at the click that he is incredible.
Rabbitohs treat him like shit and brush him?
Sounds like something they would do.
That's what I heard anyway. Could be wrong, could be true. No, I'm just joking, guys.
But no, shout out to him. Like he can jump out, he can jump anywhere in the spot. Like you go back and watch him over New South Wales Cup last few weeks. He's been playing fullback and carving up. So we've seen him in first grade handle centre wing. He can play in the halves. He can handle himself at fullback. He could play 9 in a heartbeat, I reckon.
The Sharks who pick a 4-forward bench more often than not. I think if they've got their ideal 17, they've got a 4-forward bench. Surely Connor Tracy's your 14.
Get in there. I mean, it's funny. I was thinking of like who could you throw out in Origin chat that's like pisses people off, but also kind of makes sense. And I think it's like guys like Connor Tracy and Jack Bird. Like if you put them in 14 for the state, they're kind of one of those people that would just come out. And obviously I know everyone's sitting there going, are you serious? There's so many people on. But tell me, if Connor Tracy was in the 14, for New South Wales this week, would you be that worried that he would play poorly? And I'm not saying put him forward, but I'm just saying people think that he's a world away from that level of footy. But I just think that Connor Tracy's utility is arguably the best in the competition.
I was a bit surprised Connor Tracy didn't get named this morning by Freddie. But no, I agree with him. I think a very talented guy. And I think that if he was just able to be given 2 seasons straight of reps in first grade, he would absolutely kill it. We just don't see it enough. I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree with you.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that like people would think that the standard of footy he plays is a lifetime away from Origin, but I actually think that He's done this a few times. Didn't he win their Player of the Year a couple of years ago at the Sharkies? Or he would have come close. Like, he's been playing at a high quality in first grade when he gets a shot. The Sharks are just stacked. Another thing as well, isn't it, like, because the Rabbitohs did stick, that joke, it was a joke. The Rabbitohs did stick by him in regards to his initial ACLs. Isn't it a tough call for clubs in those situations? Like, you stick by him for a 1 or 2, eventually you have to go, mate, we just can't have a spot for you. And then they go on and kill it. It's such a tough call.
It's a business at the end of the day. And they did stick by Connor for a long time, but when you've got Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker at the time and other kids coming through, you've got to make a tough call sometimes.
And I just think that a lot of people sometimes they don't give clubs enough credit for the tough position they're in. They just see a player go on and kill it, and they go, oh my God, he used to be at our club. And it's like, you're not looking at it the way that the club...
And I guarantee when South Sydney made that decision, they would have been sitting there going, we don't want to let him go because he's talented.
For sure.
But I guarantee they wouldn't have been sitting there going, he'll make a strike centre somewhere.
Mate, he was outstanding on the weekend. I love the way he plays. I just love the fact that he's a battler in everything. There was even a play that got called back because of Finucane Shepherd, that he made a line break there as well. Like, so his stats actually could have been even better than they were.
Yep.
Thoughts on the Sharkies, Timmy?
Yeah, so a few numbers that stood out to me. Sharkies ran for over 500 metres more. The Sharks' entire back line, that's 1 to 7, ran for 138 metres plus.
Wow.
5 of the 7 ran for 160 metres plus. The entire starting 13 outside of Blake Brayley ran for over 100 metres.
Wow.
Like, that is... I can't imagine that happening very often.
That's like if you wanted a testament to like the new age of footy, where like everyone's an athlete, everyone can run 100 metres. 20 years ago, there's players that would go a whole season not running more than 20 metres a game, like with the ball in hand.
That's like pretty incredible numbers, and just showing that how well they share the workload. And again, back to that Panthers blueprint of like the back five are just so important. They do such a good job for this side coming out of their own end. So that tied into, we know the Sharks can attack. Their left edge on the weekend, you mentioned the Nico show. Moisa was so key in those plays, was humming, but they conceded 6 points to a night side who attack hasn't been an issue for them this year.
I'll ask you a tough question. Who is more valuable? A high-quality front rower or a high-quality winger in today's game?
It's closer than it ever has been.
Because it used to be you could just put anyone on the wing. I mean, fuck, I got put on the wing, so clearly. But I feel like you look at and I know the Panthers are blessed with Fisher Harris and Leota, but I mean, could you imagine the Panthers without To'o in it? I don't think they go on the runs they do without To'o. He is so crucial to the start of every single set. It is, you can't even put a price on it. And you look at the Storm, sorry to cut you off, look at the Storm and Warbrook's starting to warm into it. But they've struggled a little bit with their go forward, and that's because wingers aren't doing those big meters like they used to. Sorry to cut you off, mate.
Forgot where I was going.
Well, you just missed out, everyone, on an ingenious...
Would have been insightful.
Front row v winger.
Yes. I think it depends how you utilise your wingers and how much impact they have, but I'd probably lean towards wingers at the moment.
Ooh. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's a big
Depending
call.
on how you utilise them. And, there's a million examples you could throw at me that would change minds or whatever.
Well, I would just argue that if you don't have the key, and I know it's a team game, but if you don't have that key front row forward, the winger doesn't get an opportunity. Like, let's look at Murray Taulagi, who we said before, who's had a pretty ordinary year. They've just had no go forward, the Cowboys, and the winger doesn't get a chance to do his job because they're playing off the back foot all game.
Yeah, it's still tough because, like, with a winger, you can add in try scoring, add in kick defusal. It really just depends.
To's an exception
because
he's unbelievable. He's pretty much a front row playing on the wing the way he runs, but front row all day.
I think it's close. I think it's closer than people think.
The gap's closing for sure.
I've just seen. I've got 2 messages about. There's a rumor floating around that Connor Tracy could be about to leave, effective immediately.
Wow.
Shot at Parramatta. So I think that'll be a fantastic signing for the Eels.
Oh, him 14 off the bench.
Him centre.
Oh, him at centre, yes. What
Do
am I
you
talking
think-
about? Yes.
Why? Why the hell would the Sharks let that happen? Maybe just because
Once again, no. I'm not telling you factual.
So we lock it in? Locked it in?
Lock it in, 100%. It's done. He's already there. But yeah, just a rumour that I just saw.
I love that.
Got to be next season.
I love that. How long is Connor Tracy signed for at the Sharkies? Because it's like...
You got to remember the Sharkies, though. They've also got like Itero and a few other guys.
Dyke as well. Is it?
It wouldn't shock me if it has played out.
24.
Okay. You know, sometimes you've got to be ruthless in regards to being a club and be like, no, we're trying to win a premiership. But there's still a human factor in it where Craig Fitzgibbon would understand Connor Tracy's plight and be like, this guy's too good to be playing reserve grade. Wayne Bennett's done it a lot, letting players go to get a crack.
He's also a fantastic bloke too, Connor Tracy. So I reckon if there is an opportunity, the Sharkies would do the right thing and let him go.
Seeing him playing week in, week out at the Eels, I like that.
I just thought, especially after losing, so Dykes was ACL, start of the year, losing him, losing Miller, I thought he's still such a key part of this squad for the rest of the season, surely next year. But yeah, I mean, I get that. And particularly because we mentioned before, Fitzy wants to pick his 4-4 bench all the time. Well, there's no spot for Tracy there. So you could definitely see him saying, mate, go and play NRL elsewhere. But yeah, if it was this season, I'd be very surprised.
Cut it out if it doesn't happen. Thanks, Matty. I don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, look, good, strong, solid performance by the Sharks is exactly what they needed after last week's was it last week or the week before where it was just the week before? Dolphins, Magic Round?
Yeah.
Where it was just like, what the hell just happened? Then they had a bye. Who did they play last week?
No, they didn't have a bye last week. They who did Nico play last week?
Manly.
And they
beat him at Brookie.
So yeah, that's great. This is a really good spot for the Sharkies. Had that one blotch. Now, good dominant win against the Knights. You can't really ask that much more. Will Kennedy, I want to give him a massive rap. He's not making, like, he won't make team of the week and he won't make all the highlight reels and talked about, but geez, I know we feel like we say it every episode, but he's so underrated. He really, really is. The best attacking side in the comp, arguably, and he's a key to that. And he never gets mentioned. He was so good on the weekend. Very
rarely plays a poor game.
100%.
Like he's weirdly consistent with what he does as well.
10 tackle breaks, a try assist. You know, it was only a few weeks ago where we wanted to get him into team of the week and I think he scored a hat-trick and then someone come out and did something. Like, he's had an incredible year, like a really, really good year. And I think you've got that Nico Hines giant just like standing over the Sharkies. And he may be, it's kind of like Dylan Edwards for a while there where people didn't really appreciate what he delivered. Now, everyone appreciates what Dylan Edwards
I think Edwards
delivered.
is a great comparison. Very similar.
Yeah.
He's starting to get the plaudits he deserves.
Yep, absolutely. So, massive game from Will Kennedy. Got to speak about Nikora, outstanding game. Far out, he hits hard. I love it. But I just want to talk quickly, glass half empty. Teague Wilton, errors. Holy. I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering the last few weeks, but there do seem to be some errors creeping into his game. He had 3 on the weekend. I don't know whether he's injured or whatever, but that's just one little thing that I was like, just got to get that out of his game because once he does, he's so good.
He runs such a good line, but when you get him flat and fast like that as he's going into contact, it is a bit of a lottery whether he comes through with that ball or not. I think defensively, it hasn't been a fantastic season for him as well. So I think that's an interesting spot to watch over the next few weeks, personally.
Yeah. I thought Tommy Hazelton came on, the big fella, was good.
Player. Very good player.
All right, we'll quickly get to the Knights. Lackluster. They were in the game. They were hanging in it. They did lose Kalen for 10 minutes. That's always going to hurt. Or 15, is it 10 or 15 minutes? 15 minutes. That's going to hurt you. Completion rate. I mean, Sharkies had 65 and Knights had 67. Just lackluster. Like, it was just, they just didn't have the energy and the grit that we'd seen for quite a few weeks. It'd be interesting to see how Adam Elliott pulls up because he seemed to look like he got a niggly there. I wonder if his body is a bit unbalanced. Dominic Young, a very relatively quiet game. With a few errors. Lockie Miller, 4 errors. They let the ball bounce quite a bit. Miscommunication. Yeah, so just a lacklustre performance, really. What did you guys think of the Knights?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well there, mate. I find it really hard to get a read on Newcastle. They convince me that they're this tough, gritty side one week. They do the opposite the next week. I don't quite know what to make of Newcastle. Rumours going around that you could see KP move back to fullback this week. So we'll keep an eye on Teamless Tuesday for that. But wouldn't want to play Newcastle this week coming.
Yeah, KP is going to be in a mood. I think it is interesting, though, since KP's been back, Lockie Miller's been really quiet. He's still got through a bit of work, but I don't know whether that's because it's his first full season in first grade and maybe he's a bit fatigued mid-year, or he's just trying to find his place in that setup. But yeah, he's been a little bit quiet compared to the start of the year.
I think the timing of it with KP returning, where like Miller was outstanding to start this season, like week in, week out, very consistent. The fact that it has time and sort of coincided with KP's return, KP obviously just becomes the main man and commands so much good ball, and it's limiting opportunities for Lockie Miller. So I think having played so few games together, Miller and KP, it's just going to take time to work out. Like KP's always going to be the main man in attack.
Yeah.
All right, how does Lockie Miller fit into this lineup with KP there?
I do but I like the fact that he's shown, even if he hasn't played as well, his willingness to take a back seat. It shows a humble player, a player willing to play for the team.
It sounds like KP at fullback, Gamble at 5'8" this week. Wait for Teamless to confirm that. But
That's rough on Miller.
Yeah, he'd have to be dropped then, wouldn't he?
Maybe 14.
Wing?
No, not with Marju and Young.
Maybe 14. But
I mean, I agree. I think it'd be pretty harsh to drop Margie or Young, but the edges just defensively get like they're so frustrating because
so good in attack.
You don't want to drop them, but like defensively, like Dom Young's edge got torn apart on the weekend. But again, I'm probably being too harsh just because it happened well before it got to Dom Young. They had him rinsed by the time they got there a couple of times, and Dom Young didn't have much of a leg to stand on. But they're just conceding so many points. And Miller played a couple of games for the Sharkies on the wing last year, I believe. Maybe they're thinking Miller to a wing.
Be pretty rough because he's probably been their best player over the whole season.
Sounds like he's playing cup.
Oh, God.
That is rough. Anyway.
KP back to 1, but and we've spoken about these countless, haven't we?
Okay, now on to we're here, Tigers fans. We are here. What an absolutely incredible win for the Tigers. I am so happy for the club. You know, we are critical of the Tigers week in, week out, and you have to understand it comes from a place of us wanting them to see them succeed. It doesn't come from a place of us enjoying the fact that they're struggling. And I think this last month of footy, that's why I said in the game against the Rabbitohs, I was happy with it. I was happy with, 20-0 that it ended up being? I was happy with it because they stuck with that side for 75 minutes and then they come out, they do something similar and they get the rewards for it. No Wests or Balmain have ever scored more than 60 points. They put together 66-18. And if it wasn't evidence, if the last month hasn't shown you evidence that sometimes the best players together aren't good together, I don't know what is. Like, Adam Dewey is clearly one of the Tigers' best player, but Brooks, he clearly struggles under the dominant nature of Dewey. And so Brooks, since then, he has completely changed as a player. He's confident. There was something that I wrote down in my notes, and this was this was as it happened. So I'm talking first set of the game. Where is it? First set of the game. So I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And basically, moment early on, Brooks wanted the ball and he didn't get it. He threw his hands up in frustration and blew up at the 9. And I love that because I don't see that from Brooksy. And I want to see that from Brooksy. You are the main guy. When you want the ball, get angry when you don't get it. And then what do we see? An incredible game. Brooksy was outstanding. We've already spoken about Toa. He was outstanding, Stafford Toa. Buller at the back there. One of the, arguably the greatest, outside of their grand finals and all that kind of stuff, in season, arguably the greatest wing all time.
So good it was at Leichhardt. Were you out there?
I was at it.
How good? How good? So
Nice.
jealous. How was it? Tell us.
Mate, it was really special night, obviously, for Brooksy's 200th there, what they'd gone through in the last couple of years, and it wasn't just scraping together a win. To put on just an utterly dominant performance for the... I was at the game at Leichhardt Oval earlier in the year against the Knights, and I was on the hill, and it was the game that the Knights had a stack of injuries, and the Tigers somehow managed to lose it. And just the feeling of deflation in the air, as like I've got no bias towards the Tigers at all, I felt sick for the fans and the lack of belief. So to be there on Saturday night, putting 66 points on the board for Brooksy's 200th, the atmosphere was electric.
They were chanting Brooksy. I love that. He has, and not rightly so. He doesn't deserve the negative stuff that's crazy. But the critique about his career in the last couple of years has been fair. He hasn't delivered, and he's on a big contract, and he's the main guy for the club. But for him to have that moment, and for him to have turned, at least for the last 3 to 4 weeks, to play like that, I love that. There's no group of blokes more that want to see Brooksy loved by the Tigers. It would be... Talk about redemption stories. Could you imagine if he turned it around and they started playing finals footy under his watch? It would truly be... I mean, we said the TPJ one would be the greatest redemption story of all time. Brooks playing finals footy and loved by the Tigers is the greatest redemption story in rugby league. I'm so happy that people would chin. I'm so happy that he played so well. And now he can say, at the very least, I was part of the record win for the club. It's fucking amazing.
How good was... moment of the game, the John Bateman try, where the 1, 6, 7 and 9 all linked up with just this piece of rugby league poetry in motion.
Yep.
Like, obviously a set play, and it was just done to a T.
Yeah.
And you just sat back and went, I'm so happy for the Tigers and every player who touched the ball in that movement.
Yeah. And you're like, I haven't seen this at the Tigers in a very long time. And like another guy like Wakeham gets a lot of shit for being, a New South Wales Cup player or whatever. He's been good too. Like
he was great in this game.
All about combinations.
Yep.
And yes, okay, the Tigers still sometimes have a brain snap in them, but clearly they just balance each other out. Clearly Wakeham is willing to step back and say, Brooksy, you just let me know where you need me and I'll be there. Mate, I think it's incredible. I really do. And if we can see them, look, I know I don't want to start talking about it, but they're on 8 points right now. They've played 11 games. They're probably not going to make the 8, but at least a surge later in the season, that's going to build them so nicely for next year. Let's say Brooks does end up staying on let's say he continues to play well and he gets on a massively reduced contract. Maybe that does give him a massive amount of coin to go out and get another gun player and help out. It was I loved it, man. I loved it. I'm so happy for the Tigers. They have been through the absolute ringer. Barely any positive talk ever about them. I know we were really positive with the recruits they'd done. But to start the year the way they had and then to turn it into this, I'm amazed. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's great to see. And I mean, as you said, mate, like they're on 8 points. Like at the end of the day, that's only 3 wins out of the top 8. And that win on the weekend helps their for and against massively, which was a shit fight before. So... dare to dream, Tigers fans. I guess 3 of us are probably in a race here to talk about the fullback. I just love everything about him. I haven't seen much of him before first grade. Hardly anything of him. He looks like a 50-game first grade.
He's getting
already.
better and better.
It's crazy. He is so confident. I love that try where Johnny Bateman got the ball and they went to fall into their structures and he just looked up, saw numbers and just knew the fullback could be there. So he propped up, he squared up and just timed it perfectly. So many great things about the Tigers the other night. I thought it was crazy too, and probably one for random stats guy to investigate. 14 from 14 goals were kicked that night by 4 different goal kickers.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
That's a stat and a half.
Yeah, wild. I'd love to know the last time that occurred. Who was it?
Tell you
Wakeham,
what.
Brooksy, Appy and Val.
A few young people in 20 years, they'll be talking about the 66 to 18 record win by Tigers. If you can one-up your mate with... oh, by the way, did you know 4 different goal kickers kicked 14 goals on that night? You will fucking dominate that motherfucker in a chat around some pub ammo.
You can remember who they were. Great knock.
Then you may as well whip your hog out on the table and say, boys, there it is. There it is.
That's reserved for Guru Jr.
You know what? Guru Jr. is going to probably say it. They'll be sitting around having beers. They'll be talking about the record win by the Tigers. And he's going to say, boys, 14 from 14, 4 different blokes. It was Brooksy.
Are you proud, Pop?
God, I'll be proud.
I mean, we've got to talk about it again, but stuff at Toa.
Yeah.
One of the most electric performances I've ever seen by an outside back. We've been talking him up for probably, what do you reckon, a month now? Saying
As soon as he came back up.
there's something about Toa that we really liked. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend he had that in him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I thought he had that in him. I thought he, let's say 2 line breaks and 150 metres and maybe a try or two. That was an absolute masterclass in speed, strength, footwork, ball playing. Incredible stuff from Toa. And he's found his spot. He is an out-and-out centre.
On Val Holmes, of all people.
Amazing.
Top 3 defensive centres in the NRL. Had a few moments lately where he's been called out, Val, but
Currently the Dally M centre of the
Yeah, as a whole, one of the best defensive centres in the NRL.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Then you got Junior Tupou killing it. You got Buller. Nofaluma is actually hitting some back to his decent form. The crazy thing is the most touted back. So Tommy Talau, out of all of them, was the most touted coming out of school. Like, this guy is almost Alamotti, almost basically the Alamotti of his time. He's hasn't hit his straps yet. Once he hits his straps and hits his potential, you got a crazy explosive backline.
Add into that Isaiah Papali'i, who he's been solid enough, but he's a long way from into his straps of what he's capable of. So,
Vanoa Bole, he's been getting better and better each week. Like David Clemmer, he's missed one tackle in the whole year? 1 tackle all year. How good's he been for the club? Stefano was outstanding. So Stefano played for 44 minutes. He had a try, 16 hit-ups, 185 metres, so averaging more than 10 metres per hit-up. 64 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks and offload, 14 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors.
A name you mentioned there before too, David Nofaluma, he's on 99 tries for the West Tigers. So for him to raise the bat, 100 tries for one club, tremendous effort there.
Yeah. And
especially when you consider he's never played finals footy at the West Tigers.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
What an incredible game. And look, the footy that they played on the weekend, that's finals footy. That's good enough to make the 8. Now, they need to do it every single week, but take the win, Tigers fans. There's going to be people talking nonsense and carrying on. Enjoy it. That's an amazing watershed moment. It is something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. Where were you when we won 66 to whatever against the team that came third last year, essentially?
I was next to Tim Williams in the stands.
With a little fireball in my front pocket.
Abdi Coruscant, as we said, real crafty out of dummy half. Johnny Bateman, geez, he's just a fighter. You know what I mean? He's just a fighter. So, amazing win from the Tigers. Anything else you wanted to mention from the Tigers?
No, just shout out to them. Enjoy it. I think it's been great over the last few weeks. I know they lost to South Sydney, but they managed to win. They obviously scored a heap of points in this game. They beat the Panthers a few weeks ago playing the complete opposite football. They're winning in different ways, which, I'll be honest with you, a month and a half ago, I didn't think the Tigers could win in any way. To be winning in different ways is fantastic to see. So enjoy it, Tigers fans. Ride the wave.
Yeah. Also, Timmy Sheens, you can enjoy it too, bro. You don't need to blow up in the press conference about that call. You can enjoy it, bros. Oh, man. I was like watching the press conference waiting for like, how good. He was not happy with the bunker.
Nope.
Jeez. So, yeah, enjoy it, guys. Tigers fans, what an amazing win. And there's something to build here. There is something to build here that really have shown, even in your loss against the Rabbitohs, the 20-0 one, they were outstanding. 75 minutes, 6-0. That's a win, essentially, when you look at where they are on the table. On to the Cowboys. Holy moly. I mean, probably the worst Cowboys performance I've seen that I can remember in a while. It was really, really poor. I've never seen a Cowboys team almost just had enough. It was really disappointing, and they've got such good talent. They've been such a good team to get behind, and there were still a few players that ripped and teared, but unfortunately, I'm not sure what's going on there for them to drum that out, especially when it looked like they'd turned a corner. Oh yeah, what do you reckon, boys?
Shout out to Todd Payton, who obviously had to go through that and then had to, I think it was the night after, go to a dinner with the West Tigers 05 team to celebrate their greatest victory ever. Probably the night after their second greatest victory ever, in which he was the coach of the opposition. Tough gig. Very tough gig.
Tough gig.
Brutal.
Thoughts on the Cowboys?
Yes. Just as I think, are they back?
Yeah.
Maybe. I can't read this side to save myself at the moment. I don't know what to expect. It wouldn't shock me at all. I don't know who they play next week or if they've got the bye or whatever, but Para, is it? Good God.
Without Cotter,
Val.
without Val Holmes, Tamlolo's hopefully back in.
Dearden out.
Dearden as well.
Shit.
And Para, Para have got... They're only missing Junior Barlow through Origin, but now they've got the building injury toll on the forwards. But still, they're up against it there.
I thought Cotter was good in this one. Thought he had a red hot crack as he always does, but
I thought Dearden had a crack.
yeah. Outside of that, though, pretty grim. We've obviously wrapped him deluxe the last few weeks. Heathen Lukey, I was very disappointed by his performance, just more so because we know how good he can be. You know, he just grabbed everyone's attention a few weeks ago, and then pretty poor defensive effort.
The thing is,
3 runs.
they were all off defensively. Like
Everything.
I would love to know what their lead up was. Like, what did they do for training that week? Did they overtrain? Did they undertrain? Like, to come into a game, it wasn't just a few players that cost them 20 points. It was essentially every player missing tackles and barely taking.
How does it happen?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Cowboys had the worst missed tackles this year. This is pretty bad. They're averaging 38 missed tackles a game.
Wow. Going from one of the grittiest sides in the comp.
Who's in second, Matty?
Doggies.
With how many?
Let me just do the maths.
Yeah.
35.
Jesus.
So, look, it is a bit of a disaster.
Oh, it's a disaster.
You know, like if this was they're sitting in the 8, going okay, then this happens, you can just go, look, some people have some bad days, but this year for the Cowboys, they showed signs of life, but that is going to set them back quite a ways.
Oh, for sure. And it's just so disappointing from where they came from last year. Like, just the roller coaster that has been the Cowboys has been unbelievable.
They're such a likeable side too. Got legends in it, and they set the club, the rugby league world alight last year. Everyone wanted to get on that Cowboys bandwagon again. So
There's rumours around too that Peter Hiku could be leaving the Super League next year.
Yeah,
Last season.
He hasn't been the best this year, unfortunately. The big fella. He's one of me favourites, underrated favourites last year. You know what's crazy is, like, Holmes obviously had a really poor game in defence. He still ran for 163 metres in attack. You know, like, yeah, I don't know what else to say, man. It is, Scott Drinkwater still had 3 tries.
Yeah, in that side. That's something.
But defensively, everyone just didn't turn up.
I think you'll see with Val Holmes out this week, obviously playing Origin. I think you'll see Zach Laybut come in, who's a centre there, who I don't believe he's played first grade yet. He's been 18th man and everything a few times, but he's a very talented kid that I think could be the one to replace Peter Hiku next year.
Hopefully the Cowboys can bounce back. They're such a better team than they're showing, especially that. They're so much better than that. So I would love to know, are they carrying a bunch of injuries? Are they, they are got a few people out, but are there multiple players that, because of such a big year last year, are struggling to get to 100%? So hopefully they bounce back, but really disappointing night for the Cowboys, unfortunately. Now, quick shout out, Naughty Norman Mexican Restaurant, Mornington. Tom, the manager, is running $5 pints of Bloke Lager on Mondays. Wishing Well Tavern in Curram. See Peter, the owner, for $5 pots and $7 schoonies of Bloke Midder every Friday and Saturday between 4 and 6. That's Wishing Well Tavern in Curram. Celebrations Dalesford. Ian, the manager, is stocked up with Bloke Lager. Celebration Flinders St. Melbourne Street, Melbourne CBD. Tommy, the manager, is now stocking up Bloke Lager cans so you can pick up a 6-pack after the Storm home game. Celebrations Cranbourne North, owner Anne, is now stocking Bloke Lager. And also for Queenslanders, we are in Every's Liquor Legends in Queensland. Get in your local Liquor Legends and grab a case of Bloke beer. Now, Storm v the Dolphins. I think the score probably flatters the Dolphins a little bit. I think the Storm were dominant, really dominant. The Kaufusi situation, You guys know that we are pretty staunch defenders in feeling like the head high has gone a little bit too far, defending the player. These are the scenarios where I do think they should come down hard. The player was already tackled. He had time to think about it, and it was a swinging arm. All three of those things is like, that's what we need to get out of our game. That kind of stuff. Not the hit that slips up off a ball and hits a chin that can accidentally happen. So I defended Kaufusi to death in regards to the, air quotation marks, late shot that he did on Hastings, I think. I thought that was outrageous. But unfortunately, this one, so silly. So silly. Cannot defend it.
Yeah, I love I love that Felice wanted to try and make a statement against his former team, but just the way he went about it was a shocker, and I think it's cost him an Origin jersey here.
Well,
so
he treads the line perfectly 99.9% of the time. This is just one of those occasions where what we love so much about Kaufusi is it's the double-edged sword side of it. So, yeah, unfortunately, he's going to miss at least game one. But there's not much else to say, really, in regards to the Kaufusi. Like, Timmy?
Yeah, stoked as a Blues fan. Really stoked.
It really is a big loss for Queensland.
Huge loss.
Yeah.
Massive on the edges.
We just spoke about, like, potentially a few concerns about Gilbert playing, I think, out of position on the edge. Huge loss for them. So, as you said, Kempy, there was just, like, a bit of intent in it. I think we spoke about incidents that are avoidable and that aren't avoidable. That was completely avoidable, so yeah, you got to come down hard.
Yeah, and the intent wasn't to hit him in the head.
No,
but the intent was to be hyper aggressive to a tackled player. Went completely wrong. You just can't defend it. You can't defend it. As I said, if it was they're both running and he's trying to put on a shot and his shoulder, as I said, hits a ball, hits his chin. They're the ones where I've got to, and it like he's fine, he gets up, he plays the ball. They're the ones where I'm like, they're going to happen in rugby league forever and eternity. Whereas the Kaufusi one on the weekend, that can be avoided. That can be avoided. Let's get into the Storm players. The Storm performance, sorry. I thought it was a really good clinical performance, 89% completion rate. Look, did they look like world-beating, incredible, blow games apart, grand finalists? No, but they were really good and clinical, and they've just shown that sometimes when you're not at your best individually, if you've got standards that you refuse to step below, you get good, strong wins like this. Now, did they drop off a little bit? Yep. But I thought it was a really good, solid win.
Yeah, I thought it was a good, solid win. The Storm win and the Sharks win kind of were similar for me. They just, two good sides that just went about their work. It wasn't their best game, wasn't their worst game, but they just went out and did what they had to do. Just a classic mid-season game to me that good teams just go out and get the job done.
Yeah. Timmy?
Yeah, you mentioned just that, not necessarily individual standout performances, but getting a job done. So the Dolphins, Felice Kaufusi was the top running forward with 102 metres. The next closest forward was 76 metres.
Wow.
Very ordinary. The Storm had 5 forwards go over 100 metres, and there's, essentially the difference there. The one bloke who did stand out, we've spoken a bit about him this season, but Eli Katoa is just sky's the limit with that bloke. I think he is so destructive. He had a really good try in that the combination with Jerome Hughes that he's just getting better week on week. He had a really nice try assist for Nick Meaney, I believe it was as well. He excites me so much watching him Katoa. I think he's only 23 years old.
Oh, we're seeing the beginning of something special.
I agree. Like proper special.
Yeah, mate. You can talk about his attack, a try assist, but what I love the most, 22 tackles, 0 misses. We are seeing, in 2 years' time, we're going to be talking about Katoa this, Katoa that, incredible. This is just this is the appetizer. This is just getting his feet, showing us what he can do, rounding out his game. Once he gets comfortable in that environment and comfortable outside certain players, he is going to be one of the best wide running forwards in the game.
About needing to get comfortable, like he had to win that spot at the start of the year and lock it down, which is now done. So, as we know, once that the pressure is off the shoulders of trying to win and compete for your spot each and every week, you see the best.
Anyone else stand out for you guys?
I thought Big Nass only played 40 minutes. He had 10 tackle breaks.
Far out. 18 runs, 145 metres, 65 post contact.
Monster.
He is a serious problem. serious problem. If he's playing, they're in any game that Storm team has Nelson, they're in it.
Yeah. Once again, we've spoken about it already today with other guys, but just the example of not being able to play Origin and whatnot, I think it impacts the legacy of players. And it was great to see Jerome Hughes stand up in this game as well. Some good, I thought he did some really good things. It always seems to be Munster and Harry Grant that we talk about. And I feel like more so this season, people are talking about Nick Meaney more than even Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, it's a fair point. That's a fair point. And Hughes, he was a little bit quiet to start with, but he's starting to warm into the occasion in the season. Now onto the Dolphins. Look, I'm not too disappointed by it at all. I love the fact that even in their losses, you can see their DNA. You can see that you look up at the clock, it's 20 minutes to go, you look up at the clock and you're like, oh my God, the Dolphins are still in this game. Whereas the feeling of the game this was just a domination by the Storm. There was a period there where Dolphins fans dared to dream. So, yeah, nothing. I don't think there's anything too massive to worry about. I thought Jerry Marshall-King had some good moments out of dummy half. Jermaine Asarko's try was absolutely outstanding. He continues to have arguably the best year of his career. 169 metres, 67 post contact, 6 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 3 tackles. So, he had 2 tries and 2 tries. So he's been outstanding, Jermaine Asarko. I thought, was it Ewan Aiken that had a couple of reads that were...
Had a couple of reads.
And didn't pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't pass.
He pretty much dropped one over the line. Wasn't a great pass, to be fair. And then he had a draw and pass that he could have put them over as well. So that was a tough night. Isaiah Katoa, he went off. Didn't come back on. Was that HIA injury or was that just... Did Wayne just make a move there? I didn't notice a HIA or an injury in case I missed it. But
he's been so steadfast in backing the young fella. Surely he's not hooking him.
Yeah, I haven't read anything about an injury. I haven't seen anything. I didn't note a HIA during the game, so maybe there was and I just missed it. But I thought that was interesting.
It's no HIA. It doesn't say if it's injury or not.
Well, it just says 50 minutes. So he played for 50 minutes and he had 2 runs for 0 metres and 10 tackles, only 1 miss.
On the play-by-play, it just says interchange number 4, so it doesn't look like there's anything to it. So.
Maybe he's carrying a niggly or something. And he's like, you know what?
Possibly.
We can't win this game. There's no point leaving this kid out there to get belted.
Yep, fair.
Now, on to the last... Oh, we've still got 2 games to go. Holy shit. We'll get through it, guys. We'll get through it. Sorry, we'll probably have to be a bit quicker. Long episode today. How long are we going so far?
3.5.
Yeah, okay. Fucking hell. Whew. All right. Bulldogs defeat the Titans. Incredible stuff by the Bulldogs. What makes this fantastic win even more impressive is the fact that they're on the end of a 8-4 penalty count against them. And I think it's going to go unnoticed in regards to, like the win. Oh, yeah, great. We won by 2 points. We scored essentially in the last few minutes, but I don't think it's going to go noticed by the fact that there was a period, I think the penalty count was 7-2 against them. 7-2 against them, and they managed to hang in the game. Not only hang in the game, they managed to win the game. What an incredible victory for them. And the big fella, Ockenball, going over. I mean, people are amazed that he's gone from winger to off the bench. Great try by Ockenball. I'm so happy for him, the big fella. But one part that didn't get talked about at all was Oluwapu's pass to him. Now, a few weeks ago, I was a bit critical, not of Oluwapu, but critical of the Dogs for going to him in the big moments because I thought that Burton should be that guy. And I still not always, but currently think Burton should be that guy. But that play that he did to Ockenball is the positive side of being super confident as a kid. Now, sometimes it may not work. Sometimes it may not come off. You go for that chip chase or the grubber through, it doesn't work. But sometimes it does. And that was a match winner from Oluwapu that's not getting talked about that much, but that was an incredible flick-on pass by Oluwapu. So I was super stoked for him to have that moment. Also, Oluwapu's defence on Fafita. Are you kidding me?
No one can defend Fafita.
No one.
Except this 18-year-old.
18-year-old.
Games.
Unbelievable. What's his 3rd starting game?
Yeah.
And ironed out Foz.
Ironed out Foz. And I love, again, talk about the double-edged sword of this next generation. Sometimes overconfident, but sometimes you get situations like this with Oluwapu where he's super confident and he goes, see that old dog up there that's most young players would. I'm sure Oluwapu respects him, but sometimes you can respect him too much. Oluwapu didn't do none of that. He was like, I'm coming for the big dog because I want to be the next big dog. I thought it was a really good game from Oluwapu that may fly under the radar, but people that were watching closely, I'm not saying it's the breakout moment for him, but I am saying that it's a very important game in his development that he proves to himself that he can impact NRL games and win them. What do you think of the Bulldogs?
I agree with you, mate. I think that there will be bigger breakout games to come for Carl, but that one's a big stepping stone, isn't it?
Massive.
Something pretty special. Yeah, he looks very good. I mean, from hearing, what you've talked about and stuff like people inside Canterbury, like his defensive technique from day one has just been impeccable, they reckon. It's wild how impressed they've been out of Canterbury with this kid.
Yeah, looking so good. Wasn't it, like, watching the first half of this game, you're sort of wondering, probably not where the Dogs' points were going to come from because, like, we've seen the attack and what they've got in them and a few star players there, and Birdov's obviously the one that they need to look to, but the second half just turned it around off the back of Birdo, who single-handedly just about got them back into this game with a couple of magical plays. And then on the flip side, the Titans, who just, the Raiders of old, just don't like playing second halves of footy. But like Matty Burton, who didn't have a great first half, aside from his boot, oh my goodness. But the second half, he's done it a few times lately as well, where he's stood up in the back half when his team need him. This is a really gritty win by the Dogs.
Oh, massively. And to think, like Titans had 5 line breaks to 2 for the Bulldogs, and they still managed to win the game. Reid Marnie, didn't he go off? Did he go off for the HIA, Reid Marnie?
He did, yeah.
He was in the wars. Reid Marnie. Jeez, this is just one of those wins where everything's against you. The penalty count, key players getting injured, rookies in the halves. Josh Adokar first game back, but this new, young, vibrant team, but also coaching staff, just gets the boys up somehow. I thought Tavita Pangai Jr. completely changed. Like, Burton initially changed the trajectory of the match when he came out. Then there was a lull and the Titans seemed to wrestle back momentum. And then I thought Tavita Pangai Jr. came on and genuinely changed the game and almost challenged Tino and said, you're not going to have your way anymore, which is interesting because I do feel like there has been times where Tavita Pangai Jr. hasn't gone after the biggest dog the way he should. I felt like this is one of the first times where he's really gone after the biggest dog. Now, people will look back to his hit on Taumalolo. Look, I think that was more like Taumalolo was facing the other direction. This was a genuine thought in Tavita Pangai Jr. I'm going after Tino, and I love it.
I wonder. Sorry, go cut off.
I'm going to say the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, you are. Just the timing around that, and I was watching the game yesterday and watching that battle with Tino Suamalawi was, oh my God, that's rugby league. Two
so
big
good.
Boys, 2 big names of the game going toe-to-toe. At what point did Freddie's mindset change watching that and going, Tino's one of our biggest threats, as Guru alluded to earlier, playing off the bench, followed up by the news just after the Manly game of Jake Chaboyevich being unavailable. I wonder when TPJ came in this side.
And we're not going to let Tino terrorise us this year. We're going to send a guy out that just showed that he may not get it over Tino, but he'll definitely go toe-to-toe with Tino.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Tavita Pangai Jr. was outstanding off the bench. Kiraz, brave all game. I thought Hayes Perham, I think he's definitely going to improve his ball playing, but I think we know what we're going to kind of get with Hayes Perham for a while now, He's just a really good ball runner that's going to be in the game, taking a bunch of hit-ups. Preston, I thought, was outstanding again. Jeez, he's a battler. 130 metres, 57 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, 43 tackles. Just a great win. A really, really good win for the Bulldogs, and they were desperate. They needed that win. They really needed that win because if they didn't win this game, all of a sudden they lose complete touch of any chance of. There's still. It's going to be quite tight because they're still.
Their first bye of the season 15th, this week.
15th, so they've got a bye. So they are 2 wins outside the 8 right now. So it just kept them just in touch with that 8, which is so important. Now on to the Titans. Oh, man. So the second half chat, obvious. First half, I thought they were great. Had a lot of possession, controlled everything. But I'd go even deeper. In that last 5 minutes, every decision they made was a bad decision on how to close out a game. Dangerous tackles. I think there was like 2 dangerous tackles. So the Tino one, the Aaron Shot one. I think there was knock-ons. Yeah, knock-on from the 14. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I just these are controllable mistakes that they just put themselves in the worst position ever, the Titans, unfortunately.
I don't know what it is with the Gold Coast Titans. I keep on feeling like they're moving in the right direction, that they're kicking goals on the field, off the field, and then just, I don't know, they just take a lead and they just can't handle it, can they? Is it a psychological thing? I don't know. What's the...
Well, you would say yes, except for the fact that defensively they've been very poor for a number of years. So if it come out of nowhere and they're conceding points, but like you see the first half going into the break, going terrific half from the Titans. Most importantly, no points conceded at half time. How good's this? And then 40 minutes later, you're like, oh, we're back to square one. And they made that big call to drop Khan Pereira, who was scoring a stack of tries this season, a lead in the attack. They went, no, you know what? Points are no issue. You've had a few defensive issues, and we're going to come and try and solidify that. We'll
They've said rested.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And for 40 minutes, you're like, okay, well, that decision's paid off. And then they get done. So
hard to get a read on. Also, really interesting moment at the end. So Aaron Clark's, the last set of the game, or last three or 4 minutes, Aaron Clark had the interchange card and he was calling David Fafita off.
Was he calling Fafita?
Well, that's what the commentator said anyway.
Said that. Yeah.
Surely
I don't reckon
not.
that's what was happening. I
Surely
reckon
not.
what happened was he went to dummy half Fafita. The trainer came out and grabbed him. I reckon the trainer was telling him to hold his width. I don't think the trainer was telling him to come off.
Surely.
Surely not.
Why would you bring Fafita off in that moment?
Craziness.
It's unreal. And that made no. I think the trainer was getting Fafita and telling him to hold his width because it makes no sense.
So why didn't Aaron Clark get on then?
I think Aaron Clark was yelling at someone. I'm not convinced it was Fafita though. I think that was just weird timing.
It couldn't have been Fafita.
That's what I was, surely. It absolutely. But the commentators seem extremely convinced. Fafita told the trainer no.
Yeah.
But maybe you're right. Maybe Fafita was saying, no, I'm not staying out here. I'm going in the field to get the ball and running.
That's what I think happened. But because
so who do you reckon he'd be calling then? The hooker?
Maybe Cruz Leeming. Yeah. He came up with a really crucial error at the back end of that game. It was very.
Then he would have got on the field because he was still, when he got back to his seat, he was still doing like, what the hell, Aaron Clark? I mean, it's so interesting. Like every decision that went wrong in the last 5 minutes, and then even from an admin perspective, above, like off the field, things were going wrong in regards to getting the right people on and off. And you're like, the players are always a reflection of the admin, well, not always, usually a reflection of what's going on above. Look, the positive is that, I know it sounds grasping at straws here, it was only 20 points from the Dogs. At least it wasn't 34-30. Jaden Campbell was absolutely electric. David Fafita was outstanding.
Couple of tries off kicks. It was at least one, but I think maybe even 2 tries off kicks, which is like 2 tries off kicks, so it's not too bad.
It's the Titans. This is the Titans. So I don't know how they're going to be able to turn that around. The positive, currently sitting on 12 points. 1 win outside the 8. So they're still in it. Again, starting the season well, it's so important. So I still am closer that they are going to turn a corner than I was at the start of the season. And I do think they should persist in the direction they're heading in. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I definitely think I think they're heading in the right direction. I just think there are these little things they've got to overcome. I don't know how they do it or whatever, but I think as a franchise they are heading in a better direction than what they have been in quite some time.
Yeah. And they're missing key player, Brimo. You know, he is a key player. Okay. Now, Manly defeat Raiders 42-14. Tom Trbojevic, already spoken about him, so we'll probably leave that, leave it. We'll speak about everyone else. What a turnaround for Manly, and boy, did they need it. Oh, my God. Last few weeks, or last month of rugby league, pretty much ever since that really good Storm victory, they've been so patchy and nowhere near the standard that we know that they can play. What I loved about this game as well is it wasn't because of hyper-aggression. Because I think after the Storm game, they've proven they can't be that team every week. And that was my hope after the Storm game was if they can be this team every week, they're a chance to win the comp, or at least challenge for it. But I think it's pretty evident that hope of mine after that game, it's not reality. It just can't happen. They can't be that aggressive every single week. And so what I loved about this victory is this was Manly 2021-ish. And they clocked off a bit towards the end. But in attack, at least, Josh Schuster was unbelievable. That first try that he led in, I'm going, oh, my God, this is going to be a disaster for Schuster. Then in attack, he shows us all why we have such big raps on him. Still a long way away. It's only one game. You want to see a whole season from him. But you've got to give the kid, when he plays well, you've got to give him raps. You can't just always be like, oh, yeah, but we've got to wait for more. We've got to wait for more. Yes, we understand that's a given. It's a long season. We want to see a full year from Schuster. But he was pretty magical on the weekend outside of that one defensive lapse.
I couldn't believe how that game played out for Josh Schuster considering the first 10 minutes. I was so worried for him
100%
early in
agree.
that game. I was going, oh my God, like
Disaster territory.
Real disaster territory. And then just with a couple of touches, he just blows it away. You might not like him or whatever, but if you think he doesn't have talent, you are kidding yourself. There's something that is so unique about this guy. It's crazy.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, there are a few signs you alluded to there, Kempy, just the 2021 side, and a couple of key things that were similar to 2021. And number one was, let's not look past the fact that Tom Trbojevic looked somewhat near back to his best. He was phenomenal. But you tie in Josh Schuster there as well, on that left edge, which looked as good as they've looked all season. And there's no coincidence that despite looking fitter and looking close to 100%, Toby Turbo, that his form coincided with Schuster backing the team, running those direct plays and just freeing up the space for Turbo out back. That was exceptional. There was a try that they scored, the Jason Saab one. I can't remember if Saab ended up scoring it or passing back into Tommy, what happened, but just that early shift in their own half, which is what they did all of 2021, and they backed Tommy to drawing the defenders off just quick, long balls, get Saab these inch of space, and they'll attack from their own end.
Mate, I think Saab is probably playing his best footy. I know he had that crazy 2021 year, but I love that he's a bit bigger. He's so fucking quick, and his attitude, he's energetic, he's diving on balls. And then you got Ruben Garrick, who had game of the season for himself so far.
Largely off the back of the back three, Manly are a side that, when they're at their best, they can score from anywhere on the field. No matter what the game is doing, they can come at you and score from anywhere. And that was since 2021, there was a real big glimpse of that.
Yeah. Ruben Garrick was outstanding, but I want to give a shout out to Ethan Bullymore. He was tireless in the middle, 59 minutes, a try assist, 19 runs, 184 metres, 69 post contact, a tackle break, an offload, 32 tackles, only one missed, and a line break assist. He is... I'm trying to think of like who he replicates, but he reminds me of a player of yesteryear. You know what? He's almost like a bigger cheese. Just like stocky as anything, and just real powerful leg drive through the middle. He was outstanding. We already spoke about it quickly, but Ruben Garrick, man, I love watching him play. That little baby goosey through the middle there, line break, passes it, I think, to Saab.
Yeah.
Saab just goes, see you later.
Did you see at the start of that play, Ches was waiting for the ball?
Yeah, and he caught
Garrick
him.
sort of pushed him, and you saw Ches go, and he was standing there like that. Then he made the break. Then you saw Ches, his body language completely changed.
Yep.
Chase up the middle. It was good to see.
I'll
tell you, you just mentioned Ethan Bullimore. You know, he reminds me a little bit of Matty Gillette.
Yeah, I can see that. See that. Looks like...
Leg speed, upper body, really strong.
But doesn't look as strong as he is.
Yeah, deceptively very strong,
Yep. And just a victim of the stacked forward pack that Broncos have, because I would love to have him at the Broncos. Outside of that, Cooler again, he's so good in defence, man. Jeez, I don't think they appreciate... Like, yeah, okay, he might miss 2 or 3 tackles, but geez, he shores up that edge. Up that edge. DCE, really good again. Equaled record for 40-20s.
Shout out to Benny Travojevic.
Yeah, did you just do his hammy?
Yeah, brutal.
Poor fella. Fuck. But yeah, this is really good for the Manly Seagulls. Now, it's about being consistent.
Yep.
It's about being consistent. Now, quickly onto the Raiders before the boys pass out.
The Cockatoos.
The Raiders.
Geez, of all weeks for the Raiders to be the last to tour, I'm glad it's the one we went for 6.5 hours on the podcast. Got to get through this one quick, boys.
Yeah, look, mixture of two things for me. Lackluster. They'd been on such a run for so long, and they weren't just like tearing teams apart. These were close-fought victories, every single one of them, essentially. I will say, if I had to specifically, I mean, it's not specifically his fault, but I do think Jackie Whiten has been pretty quiet this year. He's had moments where, but even like a little one now, he may be carrying an injury because the run that Garrick made, he wasn't in the line.
No,
he must have been
like
injured.
3 metres behind it, and the whole line went up, and Jack's stayed back. And,
He must have been
and Garrick
injured.
just went straight through the hole.
Yeah.
I was like, mate, what are you doing?
Did you see any footage of why? Because that's so unlike
There was nothing
Jackie.
that made me think he was injured, but maybe there was something. It was also quite late in the game. Maybe it was a bit of scores done, just a lazy. I think it was probably more a lazy effort than anything. But
But that's so unlike Jackie.
I know, yeah.
And then early in the game, they build on pressure, and then he puts that kick out in the full. I wonder if he's really struggling with the fact that he's leaving. And it sounds like, oh, come on, Kempy, but Jackie loves the club, man. He loves the club.
I don't think so, mate. I think that bit of a downward slump in form, but even saying that, like we'd won 5 on the trot coming into this, and he might not necessarily be the main man at times, but he loves the club. Effort is never an issue with him.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like, is he struggling because he is leaving? Like he's struggling to get his head in that right space of like hyper aggressive. I just don't think we've seen that hyper aggressive, game winning, just Jackie this year so far. I've seen it in glimpses.
The first 1 or 2 games, like the Dolphins game, when he did sign with the Bunnies, came out enormous, but the last few weeks for sure, 3-4 weeks.
And I'm not saying he's going to have a whole year like this at all. I love Jackie Whiten, man. He's such a good player to watch. And that last play was very strange. I wonder whether he's carrying an injury. It's usually something's happening off the field, or they're carrying an injury where they're getting like needled up, and that's why their form kind of drops a little bit. He hasn't been shocking by any stretch, but I just can't. Usually, every second game there's this play where you go, "Oh my god, Jackie Whiten!" Like the kick chase, for example. Like he's usually the first one down there jamming blokes. It's really hard to get a gauge on whether this was just fatigue on being up for so long, or Manly were just so great. What do you boys reckon?
I don't know. I think Manly were tremendous in this game. I'm not reading too much into it with the Canberra Raiders. Obviously won a heap of games in a row. Lost this one, but I thought they just came up again. I reckon a lot of teams would have got dusted by Tom Trbojevic with a point to prove, with everyone doubting him. So I'm not reading too much into it. Have you got a bye? No, you don't have a bye next week. Who you got?
We have got Bunnies.
Real big. Bunnies without a couple of players. Good
game
test.
for both. I'm looking forward to that
Yeah,
one.
good test. I want to give a shout out to the great Sebastian Chris. Now, I know obviously they lost, but I'm just such a fan that he's like fought so hard and kept that spot. And as you said, 5 games on the trot. Now, is he in the top tier of fullback yet? No. But the first game he had there, it was okay. I personally thought as soon as Savage was fit, he'd get that spot back. But I think that he's been pretty solid for you guys at the back there. And he's had to work hard for that. And I think he deserves a massive rap for it. A massive rap. Essentially keeping Kotrick and Savage in reserve grade.
Well, it's interesting. In coming weeks, we know that Ricky obviously he likes Hopewade on the wing. So Kotrick due back. Could be this week, could be the next couple of weeks, but someone has to miss out there. And I don't know who it's going to be. But
Well, I think Kotrick played New South Wales Cup on the weekend.
I don't think Kotrick's coming back in.
Yeah, well, that's it. I was like, they was going to, because the NRL side were going really good, they weren't going to rush him back. And then the other one there is Zach Wolford, who was our third string hooker at the start of the season. When he got the call up, I don't know the exact numbers, but we won 5 on the trot essentially. So then we got dusted on the weekend. With Danny Levi now back, he came back last week. Of Levi, Starling, and Wolford, we'll see which way they go there.
For sure. I thought Elliot Whitehead, especially to start the game, was phenomenal.
He was huge.
I thought it was going to be a clinic. The first 10, I thought Raiders are on here. Corey Horsburgh, I thought he was solid. Look, I understand why he didn't make that Queensland side, but boy, I reckon he's close. I reckon he's so close to getting in on that bench.
I think it's just because they've got so much depth.
Yeah.
I personally think he did enough to make it, but there's just so many other, I think him and Mo Fodawaker Just very unlucky.
Yeah, Mo Fodawaker's been outstanding. But yeah, if I'm Corey Horsburgh, if I'm Ricky or whatever, I would just be telling him, mate, just keep it up. You're one injury or one bad game away from a call-up and getting on that bench. I agree with you guys. With the Jackie Whiten situation, as I said, I'm not saying he's playing terribly. I'm just saying, I would love to see the Jackie we know, which is just aggressive, in your face, big moments. He'll come good. And in regards to Raiders' season, totally fine. No panic stations. I think that they came up against a Tom Trbojevic-led Manly side that were desperate for a win. Raiders currently sitting 8th. They're in a really good spot. All right. The boys are nearly dead on me. They're nearly dead. Tips for next week, this week. Dolphins, Dragons.
I am going to take the Dragons in this one.
Dolphins.
I'm going Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Eels, Cowboys. Cowboys are paying $5.
Wow. Without
Jeez.
Val, without Dearden, though.
Yeah.
I'll take Para.
Para. Warriors, Bronx. Bronx $2.75. I don't mind that.
I love the $1.45 bet of the Wars.
Oh, really?
The Wars are full strength in New Zealand. Bronx are missing a heap. Coming off a
Bronx
bruiser.
still have Stags. They still got a fair...
Who's going to be out? Payne Haas,
Flegler,
Cobbo,
Carrigan, Cobbo.
Yeah, okay.
Warriors
Get
off a
Reynolds
bye
back,
too.
though. Where
Off a bye.
Warriors off the bye.
Reynolds back. Ezra Mam still in.
Oh, I'll go the Wars over there.
Wars.
I'm going Broncos for an ambush, baby.
Warriors, and obviously we'll get into another time, but Harris Tavita confirmed coming back to the Warriors next year.
Oh, how good's that?
Mad.
That's mad. South Sydney versus Raiders. Raiders being favourites heading into this clash.
I'm going to take South Sydney.
That's great. Is that legit?
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, no. Rabbits $2.
Yeah, they're at $2 still, yeah.
Get on that. Jeez.
Especially after Cook and Campbell Graham get brushed. Assuming Campbell Graham's okay.
So
And Cody Walker. They're only missing Trell and Camp.
And Arrow.
NRO. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Raids.
Rabbitohs.
I'm going Rabbits.
Knights Manly.
Knights Manly. Manly 310. Oh, they're missing Turbo.
Only 310.
I'm going to take Newcastle at home. KP, big performance.
Yeah, Newcastle.
Newey.
They weren't missing DC and Tommy. I'm going to go Newey. Yeah, I'm going to go Newey. Newey it is.
I'm going to win accountability this week on Thursday night when the Dragons beat the Dolphins.
Is that your game?
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay. Alrighty. That is us done and dusted.
Already?
Already. Short episode today, guys. I'm sure there'll be some people going, oh, you only spent X amount of minutes on our team. Come on, guys. Cut us some slack, please. Beers and break-evens at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. Make sure to follow Rugby League Guru on Instagram, SC Playbook 1 on Instagram. Don't follow Matt of the Waterboy. Matter of fact, unfollow him if you're following him. And as usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.